transparent and strengthen global partnership based on mutual accountability. Foreign investment in Nepal is, we have a lot of foreign investment, but in all that foreign investment, 71% is loan and 29.9% is in grants, of which 2/3 only goes to productive sectors, while others into health, education, and environmental spheres. Now, I'm from SDGs, I'm now going to water resources in Nepal. For water availability, we can see that we have a huge amount of water availability here. And let's go to each sectoral uses of water. As for hydropower, we can see the hydropower in Nepal has started from 1911. We have total installed capacity of 1399 megawatt, of which majority is hydropower. Population linked to national grid is 90%, while per capita electricity consumption is 260 kilowatt per year. As per irrigation, we can see that of the total 1.482 million hectares of land for which infrastructure for irrigation development has been developed, but only 1/3 of that land is let's say it has a year-round irrigation for just about 1/3 of that infrastructure developed land for irrigation. As per drinking water, piped drinking water system was introduced in 1895 and 1895, of course, and now 91% of the population have access to basic level of water supply services. In transportation sector, water transportation, that is, for internal transportation, we are still we are initiating detailed feasibility study for navigation in larger rivers. For international arena, Nepal's connectivity to Bay of Bengal. We are trying to connect to the Bay of Bengal through the Ganges, Ganga River, that is. And then we are trying to use internal waterways of India. So here, Nepal and India have both principally agreed, but a formal agreement has yet to be made. And Nepal has made a Nepal Shipping Management and Operation Act, which is ready, but is still to be presented in the parliament. For recreation, those in the blue are related to water, like mountain climbing, mountain flight, mountain biking, rafting, kayaking, boating, canoeing, that is, sorry. And in terms of industry, yes, water-based industries are like mostly on agriculture-based, tourism industry, and bottled water. So culture, Nepal culturally is a very water-based culture. Here, most of the landmarks are by the riverside or lakes or ponds, and most of our ethnic cultures, beliefs, rituals are all based on water, and even our cremation when we die is done by the side of the river. And water resources problem is increasing population that also increases demand and shrinkage and encroachment of watershed areas, declining groundwater level, and increase in pollution. So natural disaster, the frequency is also increasing in its adverse effects, and also change in natural morphology. Now, climate change has caused us to experience stress in water resources, and though annual rainfall is same in Nepal, is not same, like almost same, but cases of rain and drought have increases, and our snow line is receding, which also lessens the water storage capacity. Now, for use and management of water resources, as the previous speaker said, our data and system is not that good, and it's not done in scientific and systematic manners. So the benefits have not been properly harvested. Now I'm going for the past efforts that Nepal has done on water resources. Now here you can see this is the Water Vessel Act, and on each sector, I'm just going to skip through it. So this, you can see those red are for water transportation. These are for water resources, and these in purple are for energy. Green are for drinking water. The purple one are still from irrigation. So we have done many sectorial approaches So, and we also have now sectorial development plan, which was done in 2017, which aims to 2030. And now recently, we just have made an integrated water resources policy in 2020. So I'm going to specifically analyze 2020, whatever it is said in it. So among its strategy, one basis is on river basin master plan. Now here we talk about the prevailing law and prioritizing sectors based on the prevailing law, and we say that and it should be updated every 10 years. It also has introduced terms as water accounting, water allocation, and water auditing. Now, second is for integrated water resource management and multi-purpose projects. Here we talk about prioritizing projects, and we shall require permission to to conduct studies or develop any water resources projects. So here we also talk about cooperation with international organizations and studies that have to be made. And also, we also have talked about access to the sea. And the third is for institutional arrangements, right? That is for protection, development, and management of water resources sector. Now, institutional management is for all three tiers of government, that is. And for the fourth strategy focuses on participation of all stakeholders. For this, we have envisioned some legal arrangements and for details and statistics that by private users, they have to be provided to the government bodies so that the data can be made better. And we also have tried to attract private sector investment. And yes, and when the land is reclaimed by river protection and all, now that land should be shared on profit and cost basis. Now, the fifth point is on studies and research to enhance the data. And the sixth is for capacity development for water resources related institutions and manpower. We then talk about roles and responsibility of all three government bodies, that is federal, provincial, and local levels. And here we say we are talking about protecting the areas and communities affected by water resources projects. And while developing water resource projects, the facilities, they have to be provided in a convenient, accessible, and equitable manner. So when we talk about negative impact of water resources utilization and managing them, we talk about conservation of necessary water for environment and all, and polluters pay principle. This has to be implemented. And so we also need to control how our riverine materials are used, by whom, and where does the revenue go to, and everything, it has to be discussed in more detail. And also about dumping of garbage and such, and treatment of pollutant water, reuse of treated water, and also about encouraging the production and use of alternative energy. Now for waterborne disaster, we talk about making constructions of reservoirs and sharing of knowledge and skills, and using latest and also conventional knowledge and skills as per this one. And up-to-date study on glaciers, we need this. And for emergency situation, we need to prepare materials. Up-to-date climate statistics, as previous speaker said, we need this a lot. We have to develop more. Yes, we do have up-to-date climate statistics, but we still need to improve on them. And from them, we have to have better, reliable, and trustworthy water and weather forecasts. And we are also envisioning of adopting traditional and up-to-date technology to adapt for effects of climate change. And forest area protection. No, it's catchment area forest protection, that is. So this is all that I have collected from SDGs of Nepal of 2019 and recent water resource policy 2020. So after all this study, my conclusion is that what we need is political stability for development. According to SDGs, our progress is slow but steady, and we can also see that what we need is coordinated cooperation between various stakeholders if you are to progress properly. And for water resources is a backbone for other sectors of development. And we can see that we have always focused on small scale projects which are widespread, but now what we need is large projects based on IWRM on a river basin for integrated and equitable development for the entire country. So here I'm sharing some of the references that I took from, and so that shall be the end of my presentation. Thank you, and namaste.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kofla Shrestha, for very precious information on the progress of implementing SDGs in Nepal and the detailed sector analysis as well as valid suggestions and proposals. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of discussion and questions on your presentation later on. So for now, I would like to proceed to the next speaker, Dr. Rajiv Pokharel, Associate Professor, School of Engineering, Pokhara University, Nepal, talking on environmental challenges arising from economic growth in Pokhara. Over to you, Dr. Rajiv.
Hello. Kofla, could you please turn off, stop your screen sharing? Still, I'm unable to share my screen. It's Kofla screen has not been turned off. Okay. Good morning, everyone from Pokhara, Nepal. I'm Rajiv Pokharel. I have been here in Pokhara University as an associate professor, and I have also been acting as a coordinator for public MSc Public Health and Design Engineering program. And here I have a chance to present environmental challenges arising from economic growth in Pokhara Valley. And my presentation is based on the secondary data and experiences over here in Pokhara, as I am residing in the Pokhara also. And I am specialized in the environmental engineering, and I focus on the general issues over here in Pokhara. And thank you for giving me a chance to present here. In case of Pokhara, I had to give like a general outline. If outer world says like Pokhara is very beautiful, as well as it is very clean environment over here, and environment should be very clean and healthy. And mostly recently what happening means after maybe few decades later, Pokhara population has been growing rapidly, and more than 1 million people residing in the Pokhara. Although the Pokhara Valley permanent residents are around 5 lakhs only, but temporary residents are quite high, and the population is quite increasing. And for those increased population, most of the facilities has been increased, and most of the area agriculture area as well as vacant area has been converted to the built-up area. And most of the case, the Pokhara road networks are not that much increased as previous time. So the traffic congestion is going to be high, and the road dust and vehicle emissions as well as construction emissions are quite dominant. We can see from their figures also. And sometimes we can say like the weather condition, air quality condition in the Pokhara Valley shows like unhealthy. It shows like DSM data shows. And when we are dealing with the economic and the environment, here we need to there are many connections, but here I made like connection with the infrastructure development, physical environment, biological environment means like vegetations and so on, and changing with the social environment and cultural environment in the Pokhara area. And if we see like the economic status, some of the figures, photos I found from the secondary sources, like in 1972, Pokhara was very the, there is not like a quite a dense, and it was just a few cluster-wise development was there, and recently it has been covered like the built-up area. Those most of those covered built-up areas shows in the downside photograph was the agricultural land a few decades before. And it is a touristic destination. We can say like 3 out of the 10 highest peaks in the world. Those are just 24 to 56 kilometers from the Pokhara valleys. And before there's 1990s, before 1990s, most of the Pokhara's major economy was the agriculture, and most of the people's most frequent focus on the agriculture, and they involve on the agriculture jobs and so on. And recently, service sector, as the previous speaker also mentioned, like service sector such as like tourism, remittance, education, health, as well as manufacturers dominates the local economy of the Pokhara Valley, and the agriculture land has been converted to the built-up area and other service areas. And we can also say like that too here, like if we say if we say like the tourism sectors, like tourism sectors contributes approximately 58%, and the remittance 20%, agriculture sector 60% to 16% of the economy. Where for those like in Pokhara, this is touristic city, the most of the here most of the area we can say to major economy is like a tourist, but this COVID conditions and other unstable political situation, tourism industry has been hampered frequently, and it's just like a risen and again it fell down. And recently we have like more than 250 tourist category hotels are here, and the large scales of 4-star, 5-star hotel has been in construction stage in the Pokhara Valley. And as well, it's recently like 2 cable car projects. One is it has already been started, and another is in construction phase, which is focusing on the lakeside area and so on. It's also focused on the tourist. And another for connecting to the economy, like Pokhara, the water and economy. Pokhara, there are 3 hydropower projects still running. This is the Phewa hydropower project. This is the multidisciplinary project. It is for irrigation as well as hydropower, and Seti hydropower also same like irrigation and hydropower. And Bijaypur first hydropower, it was started in 2012. It is just for a hydropower project, and other few projects are still in construction stage, like Bijaypur's Khola second, Seti Khola, and others are in construction stage. Means like Pokhara maybe going to be sustainable in the energy in the near future. And in case of health and academic sectors, like we have like more than 200 academic institutions for schools levels and the higher educations, and as well as more than 2 dozens of hospitals are in operation in the Pokhara. It means like economic is going to be changes to the service sector, and Pokhara is going to be sustained for different like health, educations, and the energy sector in the near future. And if we go like that, land use changes means if secondary source like published article source, like previously Pokhara, most of the land was covered by the agricultural land, followed by the built-up area and degraded land and so on. If we see like the bottom tables, it what is so the cultivated land in 1977, it was like a 60 approximately 60% was cultivated land, and in 2010 it was changed to the 20%, and in now 2020 it's going to reduce, maybe it is around 10 to 15% only. Means most of the cultivated land is going to the converted to the built-up area and the other areas. So Pokhara is going to be a problem in the like agriculture products, and we need to depend on the outer sourcings and so on. And if we see like urban and the built-up area, in 1977 it was just like a 13%, and it was changed to the 1990 it was 12%, and now in 2010 it was just like a 10%, and so data looks good. It is growing, but data is not that much uh, followed to the change land use change types by that's about 3 March 2011 publications. Here we see like this is GIS map published there. In the left upper left shows like there's light blue color, so like cultivated land. So most of the area of the Pokhara Valley was the cultivated agricultural land. For that government before the 1970s 80s period, there was not a scientific irrigation system, so government made like irrigation system in the sector wise, like Eastern Pokhara, Central Pokhara, and like Western Pokhara. In the Western Pokhara, this is the near to the Phewa Lake, and below the Phewa Lake catchment, there was the water. That land was irrigated by water from the Phewa Lake, and the rest of the water used for the Phewa hydropower project. And central area in between, like a Sethi rivers and the Bijaypur rivers, that area was irrigated from the water from the Sethi river, and the rest water is used for Sethi hydropower. And the eastern part land is irrigated from the Bijaypur river, as well as the water from Rupa and the Phewa Lake, and so on. So this is as the time passed, like called it was changed to built up area, and we can see like 2010s the figure shows like most of the this blue, light blue area is converted to the red, means this all the area is converted to the built up area. And we can see the bottom part, like southern part of the Pokhara Valley was still little vacant in 2010, and now in 2020 this area is almost 50% of this land is going to be the built up area. And just above that, so we can say like Pokhara International Airport has been in construction stage, so it is also another physical development in Pokhara. And how much the physical infrastructure development here is based on the demands of the construction materials. Up to 50 billion tons of the sand and gravels mined each year in around the Pokhara Valley for the development of projects. And it is also going to be the problem because there was even we have policies for mining, but when in the practice their policies are not working properly, so sometimes landsliding as well as the flood problems, so those things happening in the around the Pokhara Valley. And in case of, this is the physical infrastructure development, like left side, this Harpan Khola, that catchment area was developed in the last, was construction stage in the last dry period. And during this fall, this summer season, rainy seasons, like a flood that's washed out those catchment area also. So sometimes we cannot predict how much the water effect in the rivers as well as catchment area. And even senior engineers working in the dams and the structures, they are also unsure about that water effect and the strength of that water in the Pokhara's like high gradient area. And another is this is the right side is the check dam. The Sethi rivers, it was also hit by the high flood, and it was just washed out, and it has been rebuilt again. And another is like a big project, mega project going on around the Pokhara is the Pokhara International Airport. This is the even we have existence of airport, and it is scheduled to be constructed into July 2021 next year, but due to the COVID, maybe it may be delayed. But now terminal buildings, runway, and others has already been constructed. They have mentioned like they are in the they are scheduled to complete in the time frame. And due to this construction, those are all the lands we can see here in the Pokhara International. There was the paddy field, this cultivated land has been converted to the like open and built up area. This besides that, all of the lands around here was the paddy field in the previously. Now it was covered by the residents and other buildings. So we can see from this left hand side photographs. And the same way, like for the increased populations, there is lack of the drinking water supply in the Pokhara Valley, and most of the commercials as well as the local like community, they have dig the bore wells, and they extracted the groundwater that without the systematic manner, so it may be the problems near future. So even like our government also launches the new water supply project from the more the rivers and the so on. And this is the mayors of the Pokhara Valley. He has inaugurated their program. And another is like a major projects going on is Madhya Pahadi Lokmarga. It is also major. It also focus it also increases the economic activities in the Pokhara and around here. And other major developments going around the Pokhara are the construction of the hydropower projects. Even like this is Seti River hydropower project in the construction stage, and the Bijaypur second has been also construction stage, and other projects, hydropower projects around the Pokhara Valley are in the construction stage. So it shows like that Pokhara Valley the development is going on, and most of the sectors was like a service sector, and for increasing populations, the demands is high. And another is like a development, physical development and water environments. Like in Pokhara, we can say like a touristic city, means the water, how water is utilized, means we can say like that water not only utilized for irrigation and the hydropower project, it is also water is used for the water sports and other like touristic purpose. Like we can say major catchment of the Pokhara area, like Seti River like irrigation in central Pokhara, plus like a Seti hydropower energy sector, as well as the water sports. There's like a kayaking as well as a rafting is going on in the Seti rivers. And another is Phewa Lake. We know that Phewa Lake, which is like situated in the eastern Pokhara Valley, and it is quite pristine in the previous times. So you can say like reflections of the mountains, but now due to like sanitations from there's a Pokhara lakeside area is directly mixed to there's a Phewa Lake that reduces the water quality of the Phewa Lake, and even we are using there's water for multiple purposes such as like irrigations, like our hydropowers and the water sports and so on. And another like a Bijaypur Khola, it is also used for like a irrigation plus hydropowers. And another is a Begnas and Rupa lakes are there in the Pokhara Valley. Those are in the eastern part of the Pokhara Valley. That's also used for fisheries and what the irrigations and the CP boatings and so on. Those are the water utilization in the Pokhara Valley and so on. And another is the challenges is going to be here, like challenges is already shown like drinking water problems here in the Pokhara. So we could not get like a continuous water supply from the national water grid. So we have to use like a board of water from the community. And sanitation, sanitary water, we don't have like the sanitary water treatment facility here. Just we have the solid waste management, solid waste disposal. There means sanitary landfill site in the southern belt of the Pokhara Valley, and that is also going to be closed next year after the operation of the international airport. And even Pokhara, the government does not have plan to reconstruct or construct the new landfill site in the Pokhara Valley. That is also another problem there. In case of air quality, always air quality, the environment is secondary stage in the government policy also. So air quality is problems around here due to like wind-blown dust and the vehicles emissions and so on. And traffic management, traffic jams is increasing because we don't have the extension of the road, but the number of the vehicles has been increased day by day. And equity of health and education, there's like we don't have the government facility for all the public for education and health. So we have to depend on the private sector also. And there is a quite vast difference in the academic levels in the like government and the private sectors, because there is economy as well as people's perceptions, awareness, and the government policies are not acting properly here. And natural resource management also, we have policies, acts, but practical implementation is the problems. So it are ground levels and the upper levels. There's like a previous speaker mentioned, like we have three governments, from like central government and the provincial government and the local government. Local government, there is like a lack of the capacity. People, even government officers, do not know about the environment, how to manage like resources and the act and policies. So we need to guide them, we need to train them, and we need to increase the capacities of them and link to the upper bodies also. And another part is the climate change and so on. It is like global issues, so it is also effect on the Pokhara Valley is so on. So we need to, we can see like there's problems of the Himalayan snow meltings and so on. In 2002, it's like there was just a flood in the Seti River. That was also one of the example of the climate change and so on here in Pokhara and around here. And those are some photographs we can see. This is left side for top photographs. It was like wind-blown dust just blowing in the uphill area, means a windy period of Nepal in the construction, Pokhara International Airport construction site. That was I took that photographs, and this is right side photograph in same, and bottom there's a flooding on the in the Seti rivers and so on. And same side, this is the when mining in the from the bed of the Seti rivers, so the mine of this who got the license of the mining, they mined more than the guided value. So there was a landslide, and the people resided like constructed area has been in the risk stage. And another is like we have the act policies. Those act policies are there, and the problem is the implementation of the act and another policies, and another that there is difference in the national policies and the local policies and so on. And control of the environmental degradation. Control of the environmental degradation. In this case, like we have like policy implementation part is another part. Policy implemented by regulating body, we have to I'm sorry for interruption. I'm presenting from my home, so it's happening. Policy implementation is a major part here when we are dealing with the environmental control and the regulation here, like by policy implementation by the regulating body. Regulating body are not well known about the policies and how to implement these policies, those things happening here. And another part is the planning, how do we like implement those policies, and what are the examinations methods we have to use, and what are the technical persons we need to use. Those things we need to discuss with the local bodies, we need to guide on them. And export mobilization part is another part, and monitoring and auditing. And the problem is we have guided like systems, rules, regulations, and we submitted the submit report to the authorized body. Problem later is there is not like a proper monitoring and auditing, because after submission of the report it was like completed, and if we do not like monitor frequently those Nepal and those practices, we can appeal. And another is public participation. Now it's going to be public are going to be participating aware day by day, but it has not been proper until now. So there was like a conflict when the development project are going on, and there is not like transparency in the development as well as the economy. And technical tools and technology is we are in the developing stage, and we do not have like a sufficient fund to purchase like the recent modern technologies in each levels. And another is like implementation of technology in the ground level. Those are the problem here in Nepal for managing the environment, so on. Those are the experiences I have found in the Pokhara Valley and so on. And further we need to discuss in the next. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajiv. For another very informative presentation on Pokhara's development path, backed both by data and visual examples, and with lots of nice photos. And it was very nice to listen to your children's voice, very relaxing. And I just saw recently on the TV that same thing was happening to BBC's anchorman, on the air from home, and a child jumping in and mother stopping. So you are not alone in this situation. Thank you so much. So I would like to proceed to the next, which is by the UNU IAS researcher, Dr. Gita Mohan and Saroj Chapagan, presenting on the impact of economic activities on environmental resources and policy options in Nepal. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Emisan. First of all, Thank you very much for joining today's webinar. My name is Geeta Mohan. So I'm a research fellow working for Water for Sustainable Development Project at UNUIS. So today we are going to show our key results, particularly from this project. So today we are going to discuss mainly on the results, actually what we get from different Asian countries, but in this case actually we are trying to show some results from Nepal, the mainly on water related issues and water pollution perspective. So while I will continue with my slides, oh sorry, so my previous speakers, they have already explained the importance of sustainable development indicators such as environment, economy, and human. But this sustainability concept itself actually is quite challenging, particularly when we talk about, to maintain equal manner of environment, economy, and human. So as you all know that most of the developing countries always, prefer to go for like a economic benefit. So even, of course, even they know actually there are a lot of issues. If you go for good economic conditions, and we have other side, actually we need to face some environmental issues that could be directly and indirectly will impact human life. But at the same time, I think as a human being, as a researchers, I think we need to try to come up with, make more sustainable to like environment, economy, and human in an equal manner. So coming to this project, actually what we did is actually we are trying to look at how the water is play an important role for these three drivers: environment, economy, and human. So this project is mainly looking at to try to come up with some kind of a solutions to provide and to provide like maintain, not kind of a maintain, to provide solutions for making an equal manner between economy, environment, and human. So of course, actually, Nepal is very rich in natural resources, but here we put like marine, water, environment. But this project, as I already mentioned, that this project is focused on Asia, so which includes 4 countries. I would like to share those information in the later part. So this is actually and then so based on that issues, so what we realized that we come up with 3 major key objectives. Of course, each objective, they have their own sub objective, but we would like to look at try to develop a framework and evaluate the role of water in key sectors, like sectors in each country. So for the same kind of approach, we would like to use for all countries in Asia, what we selected for this study. So far we have successfully completed Bali and Bali. We actually trying to develop a water budget model, you can say like the input output analysis. So it is really interest to me that in the previous speakers, they clearly stated that according to the water resource policy 2020 Nepal, now they are looking for water allocation, water accounting, and water auditing. So I think in that perspective, probably our project is really will help to make a more, greater contribution to the Nepalese government if they actually try to, look at in the policy perspective related to their policy resource 2020. Of course, actually, we show, how it can be contribute, based on our results. So I will show those things in the later part. And at the same time, so our other key objective also to look at the future scenarios. For instance, some of the previous speakers mentioned that there is a lot of urbanization is happening, and most of the, I think, lands has converted into urban priority. So that I think in that case, if due to, because that is one part, like the driver, urbanization. But the other thing, if you look at the climate change issues also is one of the key issue. So if you look at these like drivers and how it will be impact on like each sector in future, so that how the government or the policy makers can deal to cope up those key situations. So from this perspective also, our developed methodology or developed tool will help to support to come up with some solutions. So, and the other issue is here about, for this particular tool, input output model. So it is also actually look at the direct water consumption for each sectors, the economic sectors of each country. But at the same time, it can also estimate the indirect water consumption for each sector. So this is the key objectives of our project. So from this project, actually, we made like a methodological framework. So basically, our study is mainly looking at the secondary source information, not primary. But when it comes to the social aspect, actually, we try to, look at like the social issues as well. But so our methodological framework mainly, as I mentioned, the secondary source. So the secondary sources are we get from the data from different like a statistical bureau from Nepal, but even some of the speakers already mentioned that. There is, data is quite difficult to get, like even the national as well as the provincial as well as local level. So for this particular tool, we need like either input-output table, like interrelationship between each sector, or we can have like a supply use data for the particular selected countries. So based on the available data, what we actually gather in case of Nepal, so we get the input-output table from Nepal through ADB database. Of course, actually, CBS probably they provided the supply use table to the ADB. So, but ADB actually come up, they actually prioritize sectors to convert into input-output table. But yeah, so that is how actually the data we need for the input-output table. So after having the input-output table, we need to actually convert into IO, and then we try to incorporate water component into the input-output method, so that we can see how much water will consume by each sector, like directly and indirectly. So that once we have this kind of information, I think so the water policy makers particularly, so they can actually have an idea, which sector actually consuming more water, and not only directly and indirectly, so that they can actually come up with very like kind of a good solutions to prioritize the sectors. So this is basically our framework. So based on that framework, so today I'm going to discuss about the Kaski district, because we actually try to develop the water accounting input-output method for a Kaski district. But there are also, we have a lot of limitations because there is lack of data. We don't have, so that what we did is actually we collected the supply use table from Asian Development Bank, so which has like 81 into 60 sector. So probably this is basically unbalanced. So what we did is actually we try to convert unbalanced to the balanced. So let's say, for example, if the sectors in the like right hand side, they have a 10 sectors, and the row, the column is 10 sectors and the row is like 5 sectors. So that while actually making input output, you need to do like the balanced pattern. So we did the balanced pattern, and then while actually doing our the balanced supply and use table, so we found like 20 cross by 26 sectors have balanced from the whole 81 into 60 sectors. So this is somehow is at the in the previously it was like the national level, but there is no actually input output table for any provincial level or any district level. So what we did is here, so we downscale from the national level to the local provincial level or district level. So in this case, we downscale from the national level to Kaski district. So while actually downscaling from data from the national to the local, so we actually adopted or employed several methods. One of the method is like a cross industry location coefficient method, so that if using that method, actually we can downscale from the national to the local level. So for this particular study, so we choose only 15 sectors for the water consumption, and for the pollution, BOD, we choose like 12 sectors. So if you need more information how you downscale, so there are some references I have actually kept in the down, so you can actually grab the information related to the downscaling of the data. So our Water for Sustainable Development project, so we we actually selected 4 case studies. As I have already mentioned that we successfully completed Bali, and also we actually completed our analysis for Pokhara as well. So the next 2 ongoing case studies are in Visakhapatnam, which is located in India, and then one is Rayong, which is located in Thailand. So these are still actually ongoing studies. So yeah. And then, of course, I don't need to show this map because you are all aware about this Kaspi better than me. So, but we just want to show like those who are actually outside participant from Nepal. So the Kaspi is located in Western Development Region. It's like a Gandaki province. The Kaspi is a district. So here, and now we can talk about the economic activities in Kaspi district. So while making, while you're talking about, direct water or indirect water, so those information, of course, and required for particularly the sectors, right? So if you look at these sectors, so these are actually the major sectors for Kaspi district. Of course, obviously, agriculture and forestry is the dominant sector, which contributes 22.6%. And interestingly, education. Now I'm sure because in the previous speaker he showed the slide. And then I saw like 200. Colleges, including universities, as well as so many medical colleges. So obviously, I think in case of Kaspi, so education is also a very dominant sector, and following by the transportation, storage, and communication. But I think even the hotels and restaurants, of course, it is only key in Pokhara, not overall in Kaspi. So based on the sectoral, gross domestic district product, 2011, hotels and restaurants actually contributes after manufacturing. So while if you actually compare how much GDP contributing to the nation, so in case of Kaspi, I think it is 2%, but if you look at Kaspi to Western Development Region, so it is almost like 13.9%. So obviously, of course, Western Development Region, contributes 17.6%, but the highest contributor to the Nepal is like a Central Development Region, which is like 45.2%, and followed by the Eastern Development Region, which is like 20, and then afterward, like the far and Midwestern Development regions contribute less than 10%. So particularly in that case, I think it is really, feasible why we actually conducted here, because it's also contributing, very more than 15% to the Western development. So that I think it is really, really a good case study for in our case of Water for Sustainable Development project. And this is, of course, in the previous slides, you have already shown that, but when we talk about the challenges or the key drivers, so what is happening so far from the past, like 30 years or 50 years. So due to lack of data from our side, actually, we just want to share only 2000 to 2009. But if you look at 2000 to 2009, of course, Nepal is very rich in water resources, but at the same time, the topographical is totally different, as you all know, because they have content like hills, mountains, and the plain areas. So hill and mountains, they have always have actually the problems, because most of the, you can say like the hilly area, those who actually stay in the hilly areas, so most of the actually water consumption actually goes to the steep areas, those who actually lives in the slope area, the downstairs. So these are actually, some of the things. But when we look at these changes, like water actually is quite, declining. So from 2000 to 2009, and in case of forest also is declining in case of, almost like 26.25%, and urban area, so it's drastically increasing. So which means while having improving urban area, so it it leads, I mean, water diversion from the rural areas, obviously, because they have, I mean, irrigation is the dominant in Nepal, including the Pokhara, Kaski. So while actually improving this urbanization, I mean, most of the water from the rural or irrigation activities, they may actually divert into urban purposes. So, and it will create, I mean, a lot of, I mean, conflicts and between urban and rural areas sometimes, and in between actually a competition among different like sectors. So for the particular issues, actually, I think IO may serve, may help. So we cannot completely say that IO will definitely solve everything, but we can say that at least, I mean, some actually, I mean, policies we may come, I mean, based on some, I mean, data from the IO. So this is one. And the other key issue is like the increasing population. Of course, if you look at the increasing population, because we took the data from 1971 to 2011, basically. So this is census data, but we just projected using arithmetical increase method, so that it clearly shows that, I mean, there is an increasing trend from 1971 to 2021. So in that, so we can say that actually it's also another pressure so on the natural water resources. So our project actually dealing with water. So I just want to talk on how these actually drivers are pressurizing on. So there's a key issues like, I mean, urbanization or increasing population. So the other, on the other side, if you look at the annual foreign visitors, so usually, I mean, if this pandemic didn't happen, so then definitely you can see like a linear, I mean, like a increasing growth. But due to this, because of the pandemic, I think that's the reason we didn't project the future like number of foreign visitors, due to because of, I mean, we can see the low trend, so we cannot see the upper trend. So that, but still, actually, if you look at the number of foreign visitors to Pokhara is quite impressive. Like, I mean, increasing from 2001 to 2020, you can see like a higher rate. So all these like drivers is definitely will influence on the pressure of natural resources. So here, that is actually the background, we can say. So also, I just want to share, like, I mean, how output looks like. So basically, I think every country, whenever they actually estimate the GDP, of course, they always try to look at the gross value added plus, like, I mean, the taxes and minus subsidy. So in this case, when we estimate the GDP, so they always try to look at the sectors, right? And this is how it looks like. Suppose if you want to, I mean, look at the actual input output, like, I mean, a table. So there are several sources in the Google. I mean, you can just look at just type input output table. You can actually show like each country, they produce their input output table having all the sectors. So here, I mean, we can call it like a supply and use, I mean, and the purchasing and processes. So it depends on, I mean, what kind of EM you have. So here, if you look at 1, 2 in the tabular table, if you look at 1 to n, so Z11, it indicates like one sector to the another sector. So it's like an interrelationship between the sectors. For instance, agriculture, manufacturing, or services. So, I mean, these are the actually like, I mean, sectors. You can see the flow from one to like a different sector. And the final demand is like after having, I mean, supporting sector to sector, so they need to actually support the household consumption. So the final demand could be like a household consumption, government expenditure, so, and as well as exports. So this Y1, Y2 are like YI, YN. So particularly final demand, we call it as, I mean, we actually support like domestic consumption for household consumption, or, I mean, for exporting, and there's a total output. So when it comes to the raw value added, so these are actually, while you are having, I mean, each industry, they have their employment, right? Each industry have their employment as well as different, I mean, incentives. So these are actually comes under into the value added. And so this is how the input output table looks like. Most of the developed countries, they used to, I mean, have this kind of a table, so that actually they need to see, I mean, the performance of each sector. So I think this kind of, input output table is really important for the policymakers, particularly to see what kind of a role actually each sector is doing, so that it is easy for them to, handle or come up with the new things or some new policies or new technologies. So while actually using this input output method, what we did from this project is we actually incorporated water as a one row in this sector. So we want to actually input water and see how water actually, how much water directly or indirectly consuming by each sector. So that is the reason, after total outlays, you can see the total water and total pollution rate. So here we are actually, as I meant, this paper, this presentation was going to be made by me and my colleague, Dr. Saroj. So my colleague actually will discuss the pollution side aspect. So we also use, having water as well as pollution for this particular input output table. And then and the key challenge here is, particularly the developing nations. So when we actually try to get the information from, suppose we have a 10 sectors: water, agriculture, manufacturing, and services. So within the agriculture, we have different crops, high consumption crops like rice, wheat, or different crops, sugarcane. And manufacturing, we can say food products, or textiles, or other some examples. And the services, when it comes to, for example, education or hotels and restaurants. But it is, very see that, if you look at if you ask someone what is the direct water consumption for each sector. So countries like India, or Nepal, or Bangladesh, Pakistan, other South Asia or Southeast Asian developing nations, even in Africa, we don't have a direct water consumption values. So we have as a overall, even based on FAO estimations or some other estimations, but we don't have particularly how much rice will consume. Suppose we have a water resources. So out of this water resources, how much water will consume by the rice or sugar cane or other thing, and other crops, or each manufacturing sector and each service sector. So this is the biggest challenge here. So what we did is actually we try to estimate direct water consumption for each sector, to see, and also we look at same for the water as well as the BOD. So for estimating the water, direct water consumption, so we use several methods or several estimations from different sources. So these are the three, just an examples from agriculture, forestry and fishery, and processing industries, and hotel restaurants. So as I mentioned, we have also several other sectors. So we just try to actually estimate using different a review of a different organization like FAO, US, and United States, USGS, as well as some other papers actually who already come up with the coefficients. And then so those who, of course, if I say all of a sudden about input output, I think much of the attendees, or they may not understand what exactly input output. So we try to actually show in a graphical representation way. So if you look at this graphical representation, here we are actually trying to show what is direct and what is indirect. So this is the hand side. You can see the water resources. And the water resources will go directly from each sector, like agriculture, forestry, and fisheries, which is actually includes rice, and the service sector, hotels and restaurants, and as well as the food industry. Now, so this is direct. We know that actually, somewhat, because we estimate based on some coefficients, given by some agencies or by our own, but we don't know about how much actually indirectly will consume. Sometimes, rice production actually support industry, because they provide some production as an input to the food industry, to making cakes, bakery, and things. So from that, how much indirect water consumption will happen from rice to food industry? So why this is very important? Because some sectors actually consumes a lot of water, but they may not actually contribute economically or even employment wise. So in that case, if we can identify those, kind of a subsectors, so that actually, government may try to take some like measures to control the water and make more efficient use of water. So this is how actually it will, benefit using this input output. So here, now I will come up with the actual results. So this is actually we estimated like well, for the case of Kasky. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of data limitations. But we try to actually validate. Based on the sources what we have. So here, if you look at I have taken an example of agriculture, forestry, and fishing, which actually consumes 115 million cubic meter per year. So this is basically we estimate in 2011. So if you look at this sector indirectly contributing to food products, like as an input to support for the food products, which actually consumes like 43 million cubic meters. So from this picture, we can clearly shows that how much water directly consumed by the each sector, and at the same time, we can also see how much water will consumed indirectly by each sector. So this is how, maybe this indirect values could help to, come up with, make more water efficient solutions for policymakers. And now the thing is that this is, so now the issue is, as we discussed, suppose in future, due to because of rapid urbanization, increasing population, if they want to increase the demand, like food production, like 30% to meet the population demand or some government criteria. So in that case, so we can also see, so how much production will require and how much this production, by having this production, how much other sectors needs to produce additionally to support this sector. So here we are trying to take an example of, three sectors, which I already, bolded here: agriculture, forestry and fishing, manufacture of food products, and hotels and restaurants. And if you look at, these are basically the current economy, which is the current GDP in million rupiah, which actually contributing to the nation by each sector. Of course, while actually you have already seen the GDP for the Kasky actually major proportion actually contributed by the service sector, followed by the agriculture and agriculture and forest is contributing more, and followed by the services, and then and in between actually the manufacturing. So now the question is here. So if you produce if they want like 30% increasing of production, so how much they need to produce? So this is scenario one. Under scenario one, so they have to have increased 17.7% to meet the final to meet the demand for the government criteria or population demand. So why actually have increasing this demand like production? They must the other sectors also need to actually increase their inputs. So for instance, in case of agriculture and forestry, if you look at chemical products, so usually agriculture, they use like inputs like fertilizers, pesticides, so that actually they try to increase their production to meet the demand for this agriculture sector. So we can also see how while actually looking at the demand for the future, we can also look at if one sector actually increase for some kind of a 20 or 30% or 50%, whatever, based on the criteria. So we can also look at how much other sectors needs to increase their production and support for the particular sector. So this is here. You can see the text here. For instance, intensification of agriculture, forestry, fishing. The demand will influence like the food products, beverages, and chemical products, other products. So this is somehow similar for suppose if they want to increase food products, and what are the other sectors actually need to improve. So in case of food products, if you see, for instance, the food products, if they try to increase like a 30% production. So in that case, I mean, the agriculture must actually increase 81% to meet the food products. So this is somehow, I mean, while agriculture, I mean, increasing 8.1, so the chemical industry also need to support agriculture. So what does it mean that, so there are interrelationship between one sector to the another sector, so that once you actually, I mean, have this kind of, I mean, like a demand for future, so you can also estimate to see, I mean, how much changes will happen, how much inputs required for one sector to another sector to support each other. So here, this is similar for the hotels and restaurants I show here. And this is also same. So in case of hotels and restaurants, the major could be like the beverages, because I think the most of the foreigners actually, they need maybe some kind of alcohol or maybe the water and things. And at the same time also for the electricity to support, you know, like sometimes actually they may get water from the local authorities here. So we can see while having this input output, we can also project future, so that you can come up with, oh, okay, so if I want to increase this sector, so what are the other sectors needs to be, I mean, to focus. So we can look at this kind of parameters while using this input output table. So this is for, of course, now the question is, suppose we have a limited water resources, for instance, but to meet the demand for future, and this is like a, suppose 70.7%. So how much water required to actually fulfill this demand, to produce this demand? For that case, what we did is actually the input we actually incorporated, I mean, as an input of water in the input output table, and we come up with the estimations. So if you look at here, spotted. Yeah. So if you look at here, agriculture and forestry and fishing. So this is the total water consumption, which is like 132 million cubic meter, particularly for agriculture and forestry. For the manufacturing sector, I think this is a 0.0014 million cubic meter for total water consumption for food products. So in the earlier slide, as I mentioned, that if they want to increase the production for 30%, so they need some, I mean, how much water required additionally. So in that case, so you can see, so here, something going wrong. So, okay. Sorry. Okay. So here, you can see that by actually increasing 30% of production, they require like 21.2 million cubic meter. So additional water they require to actually fulfill the production of 30% of agriculture sector. While increasing this production of agriculture sector, so the other sectors will support as an input, so that they also require, 14.26%. Sorry, this is not 14.26. So they also required food products like 0.001 cubic million to support agriculture, forestry, and fishing. So likewise, so we also did for the manufacture of food products. While actually increasing 30% of production for the manufacturing food products, here they need like 14 how much? So they require like agriculture 12.91 million cubic meter required. So this is how we can also estimate for future. Suppose if you have an idea, if you have future projections, we can easily look at how much water will require for future if you want to actually increase this demand. So this is for the hotels and restaurants as well, similarly. And similarly, the hotels and restaurants, they need, if they want to actually, increase the demand to invite more visitors, foreign visitors from outside, in Pokhara or Nepal, particularly Pokhara. So in that case, actually, to meet the demand, they need to spend consume 15 million cubic meters. So somehow, to support other sectors also, so we need to actually, there also need this much of water consumption for each sector to support, each sector to sector. This is, of course, now we talk about economy. So suppose how much economy, will actually change, and if there is a production increase, how much water will require. But having that water, additional water, how much cost it will have. So for that, we also estimated that the previously, which is like, having like a water use, 16%, let's say it will cost like 217 million Nepalese rupees. So we can also estimate how much it will cost, like having this additional amount of water, so that it is easy for the policymakers or researchers to assess. So having this much of investment, so whether it is feasible or not. So during that, probably as previous speakers actually explained about, we may have like some public partnership or private private stakeholders must actually support in terms of actually providing data or some other ways. So this is the way actually we can also estimate like how much water consumption is additionally required and how much it will cost, so that government can actually prioritize, so which sector we need to improvise, or which sector we need to focus more on it. So this is the same examples for agriculture, forest and fishing, manufacturing of food products, and as well as hotels and restaurants. So out of all these I think results, so particularly in relate to the water resources, so what we realized that based on some review of literature and based on some the outcomes from our input output. So what we realized that the particularly hill and like mountainous areas people, they're actually having like a preventing they have floods, right, and leakages in the drainage system. So probably I think the government must actually probably may provide to look at these aspects like flood preventing and reducing leakages in the drainage system. And when it comes to the tourism industry and other manufacturing industries, so I think maybe the plain areas, or as I read some literature, so mentioned that even the groundwater actually is having high pressure, so that to control the groundwater resources, so that maybe they can come up with some quota water supply or double charging, or so that they can reduce overuse of groundwater resources. But I know, these are actually most of the like researchers from Nepal, they come up with these solutions. But come up with these solutions, we need to first identify which sector we have to be prioritized. So in that case, I think our IO will actually provide some kind of as a value added while having this kind of decision making, so that our input output model will really will important and favor to policymakers and the researchers for actually having equitable allocations to sectors, and try to make less conflicts within the sectors. Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for the time. So thank you very much, Kavi. Yes. So now I would like to request my colleague, Dr. Saroj. So, yeah, or Emi-san. So.
Yes, please, Dr. Saroj, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Gita-san. Maybe, can we stop your...
Sorry, I will just, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so... So again, thank you very much, Gita-san, for highlighting overall project objective and the methodology and how it could be utilized for the water resource management, basically for the Kaski district as a case study, but which is also applicable for whole Nepal. So in this part, and my name is Saroj again. Actually, I'm an environmental engineering, and basically I'm working for water quality part. Basically, this IO, as you have already noticed, we are focusing, like IO is a very conventional way of making like a national statistics, how the national input and output. But what we are doing is we are trying to extend the conventional IO for the environmental analysis, what we call environmentally extended input-output analysis. So in this part, my colleague has talked about how water component regarding as input for different sectoral activity can be analyzed, and how wisely water resource can be allocated for maximizing the benefit and also maintaining the natural harmony, right? I mean, the social harmony. So in this session or this part, maybe I would like to talk about how, I mean, water quality issues are dealt by these environmentally extended input-output methods and how it could be useful, and particularly when we are like Nepal is now, we are now in the just entering into the another phase of the era, like we are in the localization. I mean, everything we are going for federalism. So maybe how this our approach could be useful, particularly for Nepalese changing context, right? So just to again just to highlight again, when we talk about the water resources management, we are not only focusing on water use, I mean, not only for the allocation of the water, but at the same time, restoring or maybe maintaining the good quality of the available water is important, because though there is a plenty of water, but if these water resources are not quite good enough, which is not maybe meaningful or that cannot be utilized for any economic activity, right? So just to link with my previous speaker, my colleague, how this water, quality or the pollution part is linked to the earlier part of our study, because these two are the integral part of the IGO model. So we are in the same method, in the same project, but these are the two parts. And when we talk about the water quality, so maybe I will use. So when you talk about the water quality, so as you know, like every sector, this is also already explained by my colleague, like every sector, for example, here is the primary sector, secondary sector, or this is service sector, maybe tertiary, and this is a secondary sector. Every sector, they need water as the input, right? So after, utilizing for their processing or any service activity, ultimately it comes into environment in the form of like some sort of the deteriorated quality, what we often call as the wastewater, right? So normally, many developing countries, including Nepal, we are not having the good provision to handle this sort of the wastewater. So what it causes, like it ultimately deteriorating our available water quality, which is not anymore applicable. Not anymore usable for any sectoral activity, what we are right now using. So our biggest concern is how to maintain this harmony so that the water will not be any more limiting for any economic expansion that we are now progressing for economic activity. So we want to maintain this one by utilizing this method, what we call EEIO as a short form abbreviation. Then that could be utilized how to make our appropriate policy so that this harmony could be maintained and we can have long-term, so that we can ensure long-term sustainability by maintaining water resources. So this is the basic, again, the basic idea. And when we talk about the water issues, water quality issue, particularly Nepal, and particularly for this study at the Pokhara, because there are limited information, as we already discussed, data scarcity. But whatever, we are not in that bad condition. Still, our water quality, particularly when we talk about our major lakes and the river, water quality is still under the guideline, drinking water guidelines. So, but when you look at some of the human fecal indicator, like the E. coli, so it shows like there is a contamination. So it shows like some direction, like we are, not able to handle the human excreta or the fecal excreta, which is entering into the water. And particularly, the situation is more worse when it comes to the urban area, like Pokhara. If you go for the upstream, maybe the quality, water quality is better, but when it enters into the city side, our waste management system is not that good. So in summary, what I would like to say is still we are in the good condition, but we are also deteriorating, or we are also improving towards the bad quality. So we have to be alert, and we have to utilize, or we have to implement or formulate appropriate policies so that we can maintain or restore the water quality and also ensure our future growth, overall sustainability. So that's what we promote, right? So just to give you some the relationship, I think most of you already already know about this relationship. Like when we talk about the environment and economy, there is always pros and cons. Like our professor had also mentioned in his opening remarks, like when 50, 70 years back, when Japan had also some water quality issues, when they progress for the economic development, when they have the higher rate of the GDP, like some of the growth, right? So after a certain level, maybe here, the water quality, maybe pollution, it may apply for the air pollution, but particularly I'm talking here water quality, water pollution. So after achieving certain level of GDP per capita, so they have like, or maybe the water quality was improving, and he also saw like what is the current situation, which is very improved, right? So this is a normal crop, but this is also controversial sometimes. So our concern is, because now last decade, like maybe 50, 70 years, there has been a lot of things. The global situation, market or global market, the strategy, different issues, setting conditions are already changed. So we cannot normally expect the same thing happen to many other developing countries. So our biggest concern is sometimes, this is a normal conventional, what we say, because sometimes we go for some economic growth, like maybe in Nepal, maybe 9%, 10% economic growth. We're utilizing our available resources, water and other resources heavily without concerning about the proper management of the waste and the wastewater. So our biggest concern is not only Nepal, many developing countries, they can go with certain level of the growth, but if they don't pay proper attention to the water resource management or the water quality issues, then they are not able to continue this rate of the growth. So because the lack of the resources or lack of the water resources can be limiting. So we worry like maybe their economic growth can be start to again decline. So to avoid this situation happens in many Nepal or many developing countries. So we are trying to help, like what kind of the providing the evidence and the research so that they can think about the policy appropriately. And our another aim is, because it's not necessary we have to repeat the same things what our some developed country right now they experience. So because they have not that much knowledge or the technological advancement at that time, but utilizing those earlier information, their knowledge or their findings, we can even lower this kind of the curve. Means we can only deteriorate or we can compromise. We can improve the water quality with even a bit lower level of the income. Means we don't necessarily need to go at a higher level of pollution. We can deteriorate or we can achieve the certain level of economic growth with minimum loss of our environment or creating some sort of the pollution. So that's main objective. So we don't want this situation. We want to have continuous growth of the economy, and we want to have the conventional crop to lower down in the with the proper utilization of the technology and the different new methods in this field. Okay, so let's talk about our situation, right? Maybe our earlier speaker, Dr. Rajiv, Ms. Kofula, she has already explained about what is our situation. So actually water resource management or different types of the policies, plans, act, we have been introducing right from earlier. So, and we are also very much committed to the SDG, which also talks about the water quality and water resources. So, so our biggest concern, like that, but still, if you look for our some data, which is still limited, but quality is still not that, maybe not improved. Still, there is a lot of things we have to do. So, in our literature review, which may not be complete right now, but we feel like, okay, we are going for the new era and new phase of the development, reconstruction. So, we are going with the progressing with the economic development, but sometimes we are missing with the environmental part. So, we feel like there is lack of connection or integration of the environment and economic development in a single, some management aspect or in the planning space. And sometimes, basically here I'm talking about the pollution or environment concern. Sometimes we are more focusing on like some sort of the narrow aspect, traditional only in the direct pollution. Maybe I will explain later what does I mean direct and some sort of the indirect. And our policies are still limited to some traditional or some like the lump sum method, like only one policy, or we are trying to have one silver bullet to to kill or to trigger every issue, because this may not act. So we have not, I mean, disaggregated or not appropriate policies depending on the sectoral characteristics, or we are lacking behind that kind of policy. So our future need, as I mentioned before, I always highlight, because economy, SDG, we want economic growth. There is, I mean, every country, every state, they are targeting for having like the increased economical activity. So they want to make prosperous country. But at the same time, our aim or our needs is our methods. We are trying to see how this economic growth can be linked with the environment. Obviously, I mean, of course, I'm here not putting the social, but that is also another component of sustainability. So how this analyze, I mean, we need to have some method or the approach that can help to analyze environment and economy simultaneously, parallelly. So that is missing. And then we should try to identify, because when you talk about any sectoral activity, as I mentioned by my colleague, like they need some input from other sector, because there is a very close connection or input from the other sector. So there is no sector that stand alone, that is complete. That needs a lot of input from other sector. So depending on their nature, we have to also carry out the study. So how these are linked to the other input, I mean, other sector. So how the sector, I mean, in terms of the pollution, how one sector purchase input from others, so which is polluted, or how these are pollution oriented or not. So we have to look for their interdependence between the sector, and then maybe we have to think about appropriate policy. So that is, we realize maybe can be useful for our context in Nepal, right? So maybe let me explain about what I was talking about traditional. So this is one approach, because there could be the several approach. There could be the different way of analyzing, but this study or this approach, this method, we try to focus in this way to deal with the increasing pollution in Nepal. Like, for example, as an example, this is the hotel and tourism, I mean, hotel and restaurant, which is one of the maybe well identified or having a potential sector, service sector to enhance our Nepal economy. So when we talk about the pollution, so many policies, maybe we just think about particularly the hotel, and we try to think about this hotel, this number of guests are coming, or they are having this restaurant, they are making this much food, and this much pollutant, maybe BOD as a representative, as a proxy, water quality, I put here. So this much amount of BOD. So maybe any policy we think like hotel has to do this kind of the, wastewater treatment, or they're supposed to bring in this kind of the policy. But our concern is maybe we are just trying to make a broader perspective of the pollution. Because when you talk about the pollution, because the hotel is not like independent, because they are also dependent with other input. I mean, to run the hotel, they need a lot of inputs from other sectors. For example, they need livestock, meat, dairy products, food products, or even the raw food, many vegetables. So they are relying with several other interconnected sectors, right? So again, they need a lot of beverage, drinks, a lot of things, textile. So this is just an example here. So what we are thinking in the traditional way is we're just looking on this one, and then we don't consider, like we are promoting for hotel and restaurant. Sometimes my colleagues say this sector is declining. So maybe another aspect we can think, if you want to promote hotel, but we have to also think about, we have to also promote for agriculture, or we have to intensify. Of course, there is no much land, but we have to intensify the agriculture so that they can meet. So there is always a relation. But from the perspective of the pollution, when you think about any pollution control measure and focusing on one sector, hotel as an example, we have to think about how it is linked to the other sector, how it is associated with the other sector. So what I call here is the pollution comes from the hotel, like the guest who lives in the hotel, that is like their daily activity, like the toilet and the human excreta. Okay, these are the direct cause. They directly release. But to meet these, hotel activity, they are getting some input from other sector. And this sector, agriculture, livestock, our slaughtering activities, they produce some sort of the pollutant. So that is called as this hotel that cause pollution indirectly. So that induce pollution from other sectors. So we have to think from that perspective. So any policy we have to think Okay, so this is something. So just to illustrate, maybe the value, as our colleague has mentioned, we estimated with a different approach. So the value could not be that exact, but the change you can see as being a producer. Of course, agriculture sector produce like the leaching of our fertilizer, like the leaching of organic manure from the agriculture. They contribute environment negatively by releasing a lot of BOD in terms of pollutant. But when you talk about the indirect, means as a to make a fertilizer or to have an inorganic fertilizer or farm machinery, they have also some contribution, which we call very less. But unlike to the primary sector, the agriculture, if you look for the food product, some industry, so maybe in Pokhara, maybe there are a lot of food products, they are maybe directly releasing some pollution, but they are relying a lot of in the agriculture or the input from the primary sector. So they are indirectly contributing a lot of. So this is the amount that comes directly by the guest, but this is the amount that comes from the different livestock and other or growing the crops. So we have to think about how the sector directly and indirectly, right? So maybe this is more clear. Maybe this can highlight more. Give you our explanation or our approach more clearly here. So as I mentioned, because I'm using the same graph, same component, because for easy understanding. So you can see hotel and restaurant, it's direct again here. But as I mentioned before, these are interconnected. So these are corresponding amount. This is the actual amount, which is calculated based on our data analysis, right? So we can see a lot of pollutant is coming from agriculture, food, and other sector. So just to have a quick implication, how this information could be utilized for the policy perspective. So I would say like any policy planner, maybe Pokhara or Nepal, they should not only focus, they should not bring the issue of the hotel in the front as a hotel itself, but they have to think about, okay, overall pollution control. And when they think about, okay, Pokhara is receiving a lot of guests from abroad, so we have to have some proper wastewater management. Of course, that is good for this sort of the pollution, but there are a lot of vegetable production is going behind. So this they have to think from that perspective, because in the water side, so they have to make some appropriate policy action to manage the pollutant coming from agricultural activity, not only this one. Otherwise, they are not able to obtain, or they are not able to achieve the total water quality, restoration or water quality maintenance, right? So we have to think about the food processing. So how this sector are interconnected. So how much, but the policy, but what I'm going to say again is the policy could not be the same, because they are different economical, the profit could be the high or less in depending on the sector, which has to be determined. And then they have to think about appropriate policy, right? So this one, maybe there is no way, there is no doubt we should have to have appropriate wastewater treatment option. So there is no way. We already accepted, and we are also committed to the SDGs, which aims to reduce 50% of the pollutant by 2030 SDGs, right? So we are already, going to that direction. So, and again, I have seen a lot of paper. They are also doing some wastewater treatment plan design in Pokhara, also some survey report. So I think we are already accepted this issue. And then I said like this kind of the interrelation. So again, there is a lot of investment, right? So when you talk about economy, GDP, and introducing as a wastewater treatment as also one sector, because this is also you need human power, technician, also we need some electricity. So there is some income there, some value addition to the existing economy. So when you look from different level of the treatment, like for example, if you just go with the 30% of the treatment at this level, what is the economic growth in a positive way? So we think like this is okay. This is 8,000 is a million is the one economic growth from agriculture. But if they go with 30% treatment of their waste, maybe we can expand from 8 to 10. Likewise, maybe 1 to 107 to there is some positive growth. There is the economic will be expanded, so we will have the economic growth, right? So maybe I don't go with the detail like how, but it's progressive, right? Maybe we did with the 100%, then we come up with the 30, 50, 70. So what I would say in the positive sense, introducing the wastewater treatment system is also, of course, environmental restoration and making the harmony, but it will also give the positive impact to the overall economy. And then it will also add value to the existing economy, and that have higher GDP we can enhance. But at the same time, as I mentioned, this is also investment. So we have to also think whether that money or that amount, that investment can be made by the particular sector, because we said agriculture sector will be expanded by 38 if they go with 100%, right? But this 68% of investment, 68% of the current, which is very expensive for them, they cannot maybe afford, right? So for example, hotel, they have to go with 13, which is relatively much more lower than agriculture, but their economy is also high. Their maybe margin maybe high, they can do, but maybe hotel cannot do likewise. So maybe for the policy or planner, they have to think about how to adjust. This cannot do the same policy option for hotel and the livestock producing or slaughtering and this kind of the poultry farm. So they cannot do. They have to think about wisely whether which is appropriate. But we identified these are the connections. So what could be who should be given the subsidy? Who should be given the clean technology promotion? So this kind of thing should be considered. Otherwise, having only saying every sector has to be treat the wastewater before draining into nearby water bodies, this cannot be appropriate or cannot be workable. So this is our option. And then, as I mentioned before, we have to think about differently, because their role or their contribution in economy could be different. That could be the overloaded for some sector. And then one of the approach could be whether the sector or economically that sector is key sector or not. Maybe whether that sector is really contributing or just polluting. Maybe we have to analyze, because we should analyze how the particular sector is economically active or economically key for our economy, or what is their role in pollution. So we have to come up with this analysis. So that can also help. And not only the one particular, what I have done here, BOD, there are a lot of other parameters has to be also how the treatment cost, abatement cost is costly for the particular sector. So these things has also need to be analyzed in the background for coming with the proper policies. And maybe I don't go with this data, but just to give, because due to the data limitation, maybe we could not do proper full analysis for Kaski, but this is the whole Nepal. We deal with the manufacturing, because we have a lot of, even we are a small economy, but still within the existing manufacturing activity, if we categorize which sector is more polluting and which sector should be prioritized. So this is one example. So we have come up with different analysis. Maybe I will share the later full of this one. And then in this analysis, there could be different indices, but I have mentioned before as a selection criteria, because we have come up with two categories. One is the pollution amendment, means some sector which is prioritized for the pollution. That should be prioritized to control the pollution. And we also identify some sector that should not be promoted. We have some coefficient. So here we define any sector which have the low, they produce huge amount of, polluter. They are huge polluter, or they produce a lot of BOD, but their treatment cost is less. Means the ratio when you have the high pollution amount is high, but the cost is less. So means the value, having the higher value, we say like these are sectors should be prioritized. Because I will say, because these produce a lot of polluter, pollution, pollutant, but their cost is low. So it's easy to treat. So you can easily remove those pollutants from the environment so that you can restore. So the second one is the prevention sector, because some sector as IO, maybe as you notice, we try to link with the different connectivity with the different sector. And we identify how one sector have highest multiplier. So increasing in one sector output, how it induced to other sector. So here maybe it's complicated to explain right now, but the idea is having a high pollution potential means they have close connection. They contribute to the more sector, but they produce more, and their cleanup cost is more, which is also not favorable if this is not economically active. If this sector is not economically key, but they are most polluting, maybe we should discourage. So this is one example what we did in Nepal for identifying two sector category, to say different policy options. Let me go with the quick. So these are the two categories. Maybe this detail are given here. So, but we identify this sector, like for example, non-metallic sector and food product sector, textile sector comes under pollution amendment sector, and pollution prevention sector. So basic metal, paper, beverage, this would be pollution prevention sector. So let me just give a quick policy option. What could be the policy option in this case? So as I mentioned before, these are cheap emitter, but also require low cost to treat. So means pollution amendment sector. So that means we should avoid, we should identify, recognize that sector, which we have already done, and we should provide the incentive to promote them clean production because they can achieve with a low amount of investment. So that means we should promote them to to apply some clean production technology or having some wastewater treatment in their premises so that they can achieve easily. So we should provide, because sometimes clean production technology, what we call, we need some amount to install, right? So maybe we can think about some subsidies which can help to overcome the potential cost barrier in implementing this kind of the clean production technology. So we can provide subsidies for those particular sector, not all sector. So then when we talk about the subsidies, we have to also ensure whether they have really use the subsidies in proper way or not, whether there is misuse of the subsidy. So we have to go with the proper regulatory compliance, whether they are maintaining or they are achieving those standards or not, or particularly for those pollution amendment sector. And the other hand, just opposite, because I said another sector is actually, if you talk from the environmental point, they are objections, like they are not favorable because their production increase overall production, overall pollutant emission, higher rate, and they are not, if they are not really economic active, so which is not favorable. So we must discourage that sector. But as our context in Nepal, we are just in the emerging, economical growth, and maybe we are promoting for manufacturing. So we don't say maybe this sector should be discouraged, but we should promote, but we should have some good measure. For example, our always speakers say Nepal, like a new water resource plant, they have already considered like a polluter pay model. So which is also very much complement with our finding and our suggestion. We should come up with a polluter pay model. Who pollute, they have to come up with certain or compensate with some amount. So we can impose this sort of the rules, particularly for this prevention sector, because they are polluting. So we have to think about, if you pollute, you have to pay this much amount. So this sort of the principle can be applied, right? So as I said, this sector are objectionable, but due to our emerging economic, we don't say stopping, discourage, but we control, we regulate the sector by imposing this sort of the policy. But again, sometimes we have like every natural bodies or water bodies, they have certain level of carrying capacity. You cannot, always compensate with some amount by continuously discharging some sort of the pollutant. So if this polluter pay model is not appropriate some extent, so sometimes we have to think about total control, like we should assign, this is the maximum load you can discharge into environment. If you exceed, you don't allow. So I think this is all from my side. So this could be the good example, but there are a lot of other ways to explain. I think we can come up with other good analysis in our paper. Right? So this is one recent our publication about extended input-output tables, how it can be used for manufacturing and pollution control. So I think this could be the useful. And what I mentioned, this very detailed indices, maybe there are some detail which can be gone through those paper and this one. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, my colleagues, for investing a lot of effort to share the overview of IAS water research with the audience. As you have seen, the strength of our research, or the novelty of our research, lies in the visualization of how water and economy are directly and indirectly linked to each other, and what happens to water if there is an socioeconomic changes, or what happens to economy if water changes in its quantity and quality. So we hope the participants got the essence of what we are doing. Okay, finally, I would like to introduce the final presenter, Dr. Aimaris Dharma, Professor of Udayana University in Bali, Indonesia, which is one of UNU ISS's partner university. Dr. Sudharma, over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon for all the participants. Now I would like to present our paper. I would like to show about the challenge of the lakes management towards sustainable water resources in Bali. Yeah. Why we would like to expose about the lakes? Because lakes, especially in Bali, is the one resources water. Yeah, water resources. The largest reservoir, and beside that, lakes in Bali have the many function and related with the holy water, with the religious, with the custom and tradition. I think all of us know about the lakes. Lakes as a landscape of the part of watershed, yeah, and is have the many function. Is related with the function of the ecosystem, lakes ecosystem, because they have a socio-economic and value ecological, yeah, because have the function for provide many provision for the regulated and others, yeah. The condition of the lakes is influenced by the water catchment area, and Indonesia especially have more than 840 large lakes and 765 small lakes, and this pair in many islands in Indonesia. Lakes in Indonesia have multiple function, yeah, from the drinking water resources, irrigation for agriculture, fisheries, transportation, power plants, tourism, and of course, as the center of culture and the local wisdom. Bali especially have the local wisdom related with the lakes. In ecological value, yeah, the function of lake is very important thing, because lakes is a storage, water storage, the biggest water storage in Bali, and microclimate regulator, and to keep the biodiversity and the regulator of ecosystem, how to mix balance between the biota in the lakes. But on the other hand, the multifunction of the lakes have the potential of create the conflicts of interest between the user of the lakes. Yeah, if the management of the lakes and not good management, and that must be the have the same vision and mission how to keep the lakes, because we know there are many sectors using the lakes. For example, using for the tourism sector, for agriculture sector, for the fishery sector, and others. Of course, for household too. Yeah, we have many functions, and of course, we have the vested interest, and that's why if we cannot good manage how to manage the lake, it's very possible to the destroyer of the lakes itself. Damage the lakes ecosystem, it includes the decrease in water quality, decrease of water storage, and the impact is the decrease of the quantity of water. And why that's happened? Due to the increase of sedimentation, because there are a lot of activities using the lakes as a storage, yeah, for the wastewater, as the storage for the many activities, agriculture activities. They are the storage for the many activity for aquaculture, and all of the activities would like to do to mix the how to involve the income of the people. Water scarcity and disaster risk is it will make unsustainable if we not good have the manage the lakes. It's possible the water condition, especially sustainability of the water resources in the future will be threats. Based on the national conference, Batur Lakes is one of the largest lakes in Bali. Is have one there's one of the 15 priority must be recovery, because the condition of Batur Lakes in Bali is very, very worried. That I would like to view some of feature. Yeah, what I said before, Indonesia have 840 large lakes, and this PR, yeah, we can find in X island, I think, in Indonesia, and X lake have the different type of fish. That's why Indonesia is one of the country, the big mega diversity, because we have we have the tropical forest, yeah. We have the many lakes in many islands, and X lakes have the different type of the fish. Yeah. Okay. Now I would like to inform. Yeah, we have a lot of lakes, but based on the study, yeah, we have 15 lakes must be recovery as soon as possible, because the environmental issue based on the pollutant issue, based on the activities and economic issue in X lakes, and one of lakes is Batur. Yeah, Batur is one lake of 15 lakes in Indonesia must be recovery as soon as, yeah, immediately. Yeah. I would like to show more again about the picture. There are many functions of the lakes. Yeah. Besides as the raw material for drinking water, yeah, lakes will be used for the irrigation, for fish harvest, tourism, transportation, of course, as well as center for growing culture and local wisdom. I would like to show the actual issue of lake in Indonesia. Yeah, based on the concept, based on theories. Yeah, the lake have as a part of ecosystem have many services, namely resources provision services, regulated service, culture service, and supporting service. Now we just concerned about provision services. Yeah, we would like to using or manipulation of the lakes, how to increase the economic aspect, how to increase the income of the people. But we forget, yeah, beside have the provision service, we forget lakes have the regulated service, cultural service, and supporting service. That's why we must concern, okay, we have concern about the provision service, but we don't forget how to keep the sustainable of lakes, yeah, as a regulating service, cultural service, and supporting service. We continue to utilize of the ecosystem, yeah, especially for the provision service to increase the income of people, but we don't forget if we explore lake ecosystem more than the capacity, more than the carrying capacity, it will the loss of other service. All of the service provision service, regulating service, cultural service, and supporting service will lose if we just exploiting the provision service of the lakes. Yeah. What's happened commonly in Indonesia? What happened the condition of the lakes in Indonesia? All of the lakes in Indonesia commonly have water pollution from trash, waste, and agriculture activities. Water pollution come from the aquaculture. They have erosion and sedimentation. And of course, due to the water pollution, due to the erosion and sedimentation, consequently, it threats of the biological or biota in the lakes. There is the 15 lakes in Indonesia must be recovered. Bali, Danau Batur, Bali is included in first priority, and beside that we have 15 lakes as a second priority. Yeah, Bali is Batur. Yeah, Bali have 4 lakes. Yeah, and one of lakes is Danau Batur, and it is the biggest, largest lakes in Bali. Okay, I would like to why we have threats with the lakes. We would like to flashback overview of the Bali. Yeah, Bali is a small island. Yeah, we just have 5,666 kilometers square. We have 400.36 million people. Yeah, and Bali have a most popular tourism destination. Yeah, we have a lot of target for the foreign tourism, but due to the pandemic COVID-19, we lost of our expectation. Yeah, because based on the data on September and October, September, there are no people come to Bali. There are no foreigners come to Bali, and we have limited visitor in domestic tourism. Yeah, due to the pandemic COVID-19. That might be from the economic side. That is a good situation. Yeah, but from the environmental sides, maybe it is the blessing, because we can recover all of the matter, all of the issue related with the environment. Yeah, that's why, based on the policy of Bali government, let's we overview the policy of Bali government, the policy of the Bali development. Yeah, how to keep the environmental, how to mix balance between the tourism development and environmental development. Yeah, we know in Bali, yeah, the backbone of the economic Bali is come from the tourism sector. Yeah, especially come from the hotel and restaurant, and of course the multiplier effect of the tourism, hotel and restaurant. Yeah, primary sector, agriculture sector just contribute 15.32% for the GDP. Yeah, of the Bali income, and the secondary sector only 15.36%. It is come from the household industry, yeah, handicraft especially, and more than 23% come from the tourism sector, especially from the accommodation and restaurant. That's why Bali is very, very depending on the tourism sector. Yeah, pandemic 19 situation makes the growth of economic Bali is drop, and some of the people lost of the job, because the condition in Bali a lot of people, especially young generation, not interested in work at agriculture sector. Some of them move on from the agriculture to the tourism sector. But in pandemic COVID-19, some of the people at the tourism sector back to agriculture sector. It's just for the time being how to make survive of the life. It is the real condition now in Bali. Bali have environmental issue. Yeah, the main issue is come from the water. Crisis of water. Yeah, the crisis of water. There are many causes. Yeah, due to the land conversion, especially in the recharge area at the upstream. Yeah, we have many area recharge area. Yeah, forest area convert to building. Yeah, that's why the area of the recharge area decrease and makes the water supply decrease too. Besides that, we have problem with the waste, especially solid waste. We have problem with public transport, and we have problem with abrasion or aeration in the beach. Yeah. But let me focus in the water as the main issue in Bali. Yeah. Based on the last study, water status in Bali is divided into 9 regency or city. But based on the last study, from the 9 city or regency, there are only 4 regency or city have surplus water. And the rest, 5 city and regency is deficit water. It is the problem in Bali. Yeah, Bali as tourism destination with the high consumption of the water, but we have problem deficit water. Yeah. Why we have problem with deficit water? Because from the supply side, especially from the catchment area, what I said, we have problem with the decrease of recharge area. We have problem with the land conversion. We have problem with the over carrying capacity, especially related with the danau using, the danau utilization, lakes utilization, due to the climate change. That will to make decrease in water quantity and quality. Yeah. Demand sides, we have growth population more than 2% per year, and growth of economic more than 5%. But based on pandemic, I think the economic Bali is decreased. Growth of economic Bali decrease maybe around 1%, but not a recession, not negative. Wasteful and inefficiency of water consumption. Based on the study done by the NGO in that, 65% of water in Bali used for the tourism service. That means a lot of water allocated to tourism. The population in Bali reached in 4.2 million, and around we received, they are around almost 6 million domestic tourism come to Bali, and beside and tourism, foreigner tourism, but in our target in next year, if they are not pandemic, Bali have targets around 20 million tourism come to Bali. I think blessed for Bali, it is impossible to reach because pandemic conflict. Some of the people to cancel the traveling to Bali, although domestic and foreigners. Based on 2080 study on 2080, Bali have deficit more than 13%. Based on the last study, Yeah, there are 4 regency deficit of water, surplus of water, and 5 the regency and city deficit of water. Okay, let's we look about the Danau Batur, yeah, as a water reservoir, the largest water reservoir in Bali. Yeah. Batur Lakes is the largest water reservoir of 4 lakes in Bali. Other lakes is Bratan, Tamlingan, and Buyan. Yeah, there are 2 lakes most popular in Bali as a tourism destination. The first one is Batur, and the second one is Bratan, located at Tabanan Regency, but Bali located at Bangli Regency. Batur located at Bangli Regency. This is a condition of Batur Lakes if we compare in 2030 and 2015. Yeah, the water size, surface water size of the Batur Lakes is 4.29 kilometer. Yeah, but in 2050 decreased to be 3.89 kilometer square. Water volume decreased from 63.3 to be dropped 29.74 meter cubic. Deep maximum 20 and 24. That means they are due to the sedimentation. The deep maximum of the lakes decreased from 23 to 20. Yeah, the volume of sedimentation, yeah, around 2,000 for 3.32, and sedimentation rates around 814 meter cubic per year. We have problem with the sedimentation. Why sedimentation? It's happened. Yeah, it's due to we have the Batur Lakes, the around of Batur Lakes. There are many activities as like mining, as like to agriculture activities, which using the land, the slope of land is very dangerous, but some of farmer still activities, still make cultivation in the top of the land. That's why in the rainy season, there are erosion and drought goes directly to the lake. That's why the sedimentation is high. Okay. I just would like to introduce the Batur more specific. Yeah, Batur Lake is a very significant role for the local community and Balinese people. Cause Batur Lake is closely related with the custom and culture. Yeah. More than around 90% of the Balinese is the Hindus. Yeah. Batur Lake, besides as an attractive tourism spot, Batur is one of destination of the tourism come to Bali. Yeah, and also big reservoir for agriculture and aquaculture. Batur Lake have area around what I said 16 kilometer square. I was explain about that. Maximum depth about 60 until 70 meter, and located at altitude 1,050 meter above sea level. Volume, water volume is around 0.82 kilometer cubic. Have less sedimentation, what I said before. And one more thing, Batur Lake is volcanic lake. Yeah, which is a closed water system without outlet. Yeah, because Batur Lake is a volcanic without outlet. That means, yeah, pollutant will be produced, come from many activities, come from the agriculture, come from the aquaculture, come from household, come from restaurant, more activities around of the lake, yeah, be trapped, yeah, in the lake, because lake dan Batur Lake don't have without outlet. That means pollutant will accumulated in the lakes. That's why the quality of water at Batur Lakes, yeah, 10 increase in each year.
Dr. Siddharma?
In water infiltration of Batur Lakes expected due to the Batur Lakes is without outlet. That means the process of the water at the Batur Lakes by infiltration, and based on study, Batur Lakes expected is 3.4 meter cubic per second. Yeah, the infiltration and will to be many spring water in downstream. That means Batur Lakes is one of the water resources for agriculture in the downstream by the water spring. We have many water spring produce come from the Batur Lake. Yeah.
Dr. Siddharma?
Yeah.
Yeah, would you start wrapping up, please?
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Currently, water condition in Batur Lake is tend to change, especially the water quality and quantity due to the influence of humanity activities around the lakes. Okay. I guess the picture of the some problem at the Batur: sedimentation, domestic waste, pollution by agriculture activity, floating netscapes. It is there are 4 activities that biggest contribution for pollutant to the lakes. What is the role of the lakes? What is the activities, impacts, and we have problem threats to the sustainability of water availability, biodiversity, and humanity socioeconomics. I think that's all. Thank you. Like a slide and love it.
Thank you, Dr. Siddharma, and apologies for rushing you. It was a very informative presentation again on the lakes in Bali, Indonesia. And you started out nicely by saying that water is a holy thing and that it has a ritual value, which is something new to this webinar. But then you followed saying that that much the importance is, but our important water is in danger, and then narrow down into the detail, which is very nice sequencing and was very interesting. So thank you very much for the presenters. Now we have completed all the presentations, and we have sizable number of questions coming from the audience. So we would like to move on to the question and answer session, which will be moderated by Dr. Dr. Binaya Kumar Mishra, Professor of School of Engineering, Pokhara University in Nepal. Dr. Mishra, over to you.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Okay, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Binaya Kumar Mishra and I am a professor at School of Engineering. And I am associated with this project for starting. So I found all of the presentations were quite interesting and quite understandable. So in this next 1 hour, nearly one hour, I think I am going to read some of the questions and also point out to whom it has been pointed out these questions. And maybe later part, next around 20 minutes, we'll have a time for this question and answer. And later we have a very renowned panelist and they are going to provide their feedback and those names will be called by later from our UNU colleague sites. So we got several queries from our attendees. And so in the beginning, we had questions from Mr. Mohan Gurung to Professor Dr. Hari Krishna Shrestha. And his question is on like how to ensure that a water research project is sustainable, basically largely in terms of this time period and also he wanted in terms of this government policy, his answer. So would you, Dr. Professor Shrestha, respond to his queries?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to respond to it. Basically, my premise is that Currently, the water allocation practices done in Nepal is quite uncoordinated. For example, and that is the reason for unsustainability of many projects. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry. What is happening is that sometimes there is a water allocation project already constructed, but without coordinating with the local governments, the central government has frequently allocated water diversion structures upstream of that. So the downstream project has been unsustainable and has become deformed. It's not one time or one or two times. It has repeated many times. Number one is that. Number two is that for sustainable use of water, the local government should know how much water is required for the local activities, so that there is no conflict with the national projects. And the less the conflict, the more the project is sustainable. And even in this regard, currently the water data collection system, dissemination system, and analysis system is concentrated in only one organization, and the local governments has no say in it. So that is another reason that they are not consulted, because the local government has not been able to collect data and analyze data. So if we can address this issue, then the central government will be required to consult with the local governments. And when there is this kind of coordination, there will be less conflict. That means that whatever water development projects or water allocation projects or water security projects we are concerned with will be more sustainable. That is the basic summary that we found from that project. If you need more, if it's clear, I will be glad. If not, I will be glad to respond again.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it is quite clear. And let's move to the next one, as we have several questions from our attendees. And next question, I think it is for Ms. Kofula. And basically, this question is from Mr. Nirmal Gautam. And he is asking like how we can optimize this water resources, and especially with focus on this recycling of water in our Nepalese context. Any?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. For optimization use of water resources, I can say that majority of our water consumption is done in irrigation, I guess, right? Rather than the water that we use are like, I cannot say about recycling, but yes, in reusing of water, we do that a lot. Except for drinking water, and then the other thing is the sewerage. That is, we could recycle it, but as we all know, it's just we have just one sewage treatment plant in Kathmandu, and that is also not functioning very well. So, as per water recycling, we have not done much, but yes, we can do. I am not quite sure what he exactly wants to know. So if the question could be more precise, then maybe I could answer it more properly.
Okay, so in my understanding, like in your opinion, how do you see the possibility of this water reuses in our context? How it is?
Yes.
I think that is his question.
Okay, the water is reused in Nepal. We do not let's say as per water from the taps, drinking water, we do reuse it. We do not waste much water because, we did face water scarcity in Nepal not very long ago. And even then we did water reuse, like drinking water. And after that, the water that use go for bathroom uses, like vegetables, to wash vegetables, and then to wash clothes, and then put them into like gardening purposes. These are like household use wise. But if we go to like larger scale, because I am in irrigation, I can say better in irrigation sector. How we can do this is, the water that is being put into irrigation, it goes, after that it goes to multiple irrigation projects, one after the other. Like, there's one river, and then you go to one irrigation scheme. The water that is used in the field, either it evaporates, or it leaches into the ground, or then the excess water goes to the drainage, and then that drainage is captured again captured and used by other irrigation users downstream. Let's say, if, for example, for hydropower projects, in the same river or in the same river basin, one power project, hydropower projects use the water, and the tail end water is again used by another hydropower project, or by irrigation, or by drinking water. So yes, water is being reused, but the thing is, we have not done quite a detailed study as to how much has been done. And so I can just suggest that these things are done in Nepal, and it is very much possible. I think I made myself
clear. Okay, thank you. We have few questions. Maybe first I'll be taking the questions in the order of the presentations. So now I have some questions for the Dr. Rajiv, and the questions are like, what could be some of the sediment control ways or methods which can increase the life of the Pheva Lake? And also here, there is a question to our Dr. Rajiv, that did you find like whether whether the ecological knowledges or activities of the land users or land manager are taken in the planning of in context of this lake basin environment? So will you respond to Dr. Rajiv?
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. And based on the first question, like sediment control at the upstream Pheva Lake, in that context, most of the sediment sources for the Pheva Lake is the sediments are flown by the flood in the upstream region. That's the major source of the water. Source of water of Pheva Lake is like a Harpan Khola. In that context, there is like two major is Harpan Khola, and another is upstream. There is on slides I have shown. There is small others, like a small Khola is there, and the government, mostly metropolitan city, thought about this, and they had started to construct the check dam, or like a sediment control check dam last year. And they had constructed the check dam, and unfortunately that check dam did not work in this flooding season, so they think alternative for controlling that again. And another part is like they need to control like a sewage directly, which is passed in the Pheva Lake, most especially in the flooding seasons. And in that sense, metropolitan city strictly restrict to directly through the wastewater to the Pheva Lake. So there is a control mechanism over there. So hopefully, and another part is already there. Some of the part of the Pheva Lake has been covered by the sediments, and in that sense, they plan to remove that sediments from the Pheva Lake, and they plan to increase the size of the Pheva Lake at the original level. Maybe future they will work on that part. First part, maybe it is up to that. And in case of ecological planning in the Pokhara Valley, until now there is not a specific planning they have implemented to control the downstream ecology or the land use ecology and so on in the Pokhara Valley. And only the thing is there is a environmental protection rules that is the newly previous rule that was cancelled by the government, and they implemented the next rule in the environmental protection rules 2077, and they have like a transfer to the local level, like in Nepalese country we have like Karyabidhi and so on, that is also implemented in the local government. So hopefully they will address any kind of for any kind of development work in the Pokhara Valley. They have to first analyze the environmental assessment based on the project level, and they need to, after the approval from the government, only we can work any of the development as well as medium to large size the business activities in the Pokhara Valley that may help to control the ecology and the environment of the Pokhara Valley.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you have responded very well. And now we have few questions from Mr. Achyut Acharya, and although it is not very specific to a particular person, but the UNU side or even your research fellow can respond to this. So first question is on the possibility of cooperations, or say what could be the role and say cooperations that will support the advocacy for the water right in Nepal. Would you respond, someone from UNU?
Maybe I can.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you for the question. I think in a straight away, so we can say no, because it is clearly mentioned that advocacy for the enjoyment of right to water in Nepal. So from this project, I think from UNU IAS side, so this is like a 4 years project. And actually we are trying to, look at, look at water consumption, particularly in case of Kaski. So as an overall, so I think, of course, based on outcomes of our result, so we may come up with some kind of a policies related to our result, not related to rights to water in Nepal. So from that perspective, I think UNU IAS, so it's not actually to provide any right to water perspective in Nepal. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And a question from Mr. Achyut to our UNU fellows, that what kind of data, maybe in terms of the quantity or say number of or record length or the quality of data, the related challenges you felt while you developed this model for the Kaski region.
Okay, so I think this is again me. So particularly in case of Nepal, not only in Nepal, even in other developing countries, the data, I think getting data is really, really difficult. So, and moreover for IWO, I think there is no even updated data for Nepal, even in India, for other countries. So still, if you can look at the data for Nepal itself, not in the national level, they have only 2011 data. So the data itself, they have like supply use, which is also like unbalanced. So actually our idea for this particular, study, Kaski, we really want to look at the agriculture perspective, agriculture under different sectors. So agriculture is the dominant sector. So we want to see like different subsectors under agriculture, like, paddy or the dominant crops. But when it comes to, of course, you can get the data for paddy, how much yield you can get under how much hectares. But when you look at the relationship between one sector to the another sector, the interlinks, so we don't have that type of data. Even for Nepal, forget about the Kaski. So we don't have that kind of data for Nepal, particularly the relationship between, how much inputs actually to support, one sector to another sector. So that is actually one of the, a limitation, higher limitation. And so while actually we try to, go for more sectors, because for this particular case study, we just did only for, 15 sectors for the water and 12 sectors for the pollution. So the reason why we selected only 15, because on the other hand, so while actually you are trying to estimate even the water coefficient, you need different parameters like employment, other things. But those data actually we don't have. So we cannot come up with our own, numbers. So that could be also one of the limitations of why we actually stick with only 15 sectors and 12 sectors for that. So as a overall, my conclusion is, so, in case of Nepal, I think the data is very challenging. So yeah, so that is the reason actually when I talk, given my presentation, for the validation purpose, I think what we have, so we just use those numbers in our analysis, but for the validation purpose, it may be some, some kind of limitations. So that is actually my overall conclusion of our analysis and the data limitations.
Okay, thank you. Another questions from Dr. Samik Chakrabarti. Actually, he is also the principal investigator of one of the APN project, and it's one of the study area is the Nepal, again the Pokhara or the Phewa Lake Basin he has considered. So his question is for Dr. Saroj, and he would like to ask that what is the condition of solid waste in the lake or river around this Pokhara region, with name like the Pheba or Begnas or the Seti River, and did you have or could you find any kind of estimates of this solid waste quantity? So would you respond, Dr. Saroj? Saroj Chapagai? Hello?
I think seems his internet is not
Okay.
well, probably. Maybe you can switch for another question. Maybe.
So maybe I think we can have some opinion from our Dr. Rajiv Pokhrel, as he has been, he is also a resident of Pokhara and might have some experience on this solid waste concern in the lake or the river around this Pokhara region.
Thank you, Vinay sir. In case of solid waste condition in Pokhara, that's a metropolitan city actively working on it, and they have collected the solid waste from door to door, and that solid waste is disposed in the central landfill site, which is located in the southern part of the Pokhara Valley. And for dumping, there's a solid waste dumping problem in around the Phewa Lake and around the Begnas Lake. There is not a problem. We cannot see like a solid waste dumping in the besides the lakes. So those are rare in there. So I think solid waste problem is not there around the lakes Phewa, Begnas Lake. Sometimes what we can see is solid waste thrown by like a local business, like small scale business people or the residents nearby the rivers too. So we can find, but there is strict regulations that if someone throws solid waste in the river basins and so on, there is like a penalty. So it is maybe those solid waste unnecessary throwing around the river without like precautions, those are minimizing day by day. So I think there is not a problem, much problem around the Pokhara Valley in this concern.
Okay. So would you like to add something, Dr. Saroj, on this solid waste subject, like solid waste concern in this Pokhara region, lakes or the river system?
Thank you, Dr. Professor Mishra. I think, yeah, Dr. Rajiv is the right person. He has rightly answered. So far, our project, this input-output, we are not really concentrating and focusing for solid waste. But as my knowledge also, yeah, he has pointed right now, we have like Pokhara has like a recently developed landfill area. So maybe they are having this provision to collect door-to-door system, and they are trying to bring all those kind of solid waste to those designated areas. And as per my understanding, of course, there might be several work going on parallelly to estimate and to analyze and to have appropriate policies related to solid waste. So I think, there are plenty of literature or the information might be available. So I think, and thank you very much for Dr. Rajiv for providing.
So, thank you. And we have a few more questions. So one of the question is on as Dr. Rajiv presented on this, around this water pollution, and also we got from the Dr. Saroj that the industries have been polluting the water bodies in many places, including this Pokhara region. So how that violates, or how, say, the concern of this access to the clean water is, that concern, we find clean water access right. Would you add anyone on this? Because of that, the people can't use the clean water or compromised. Would you like to add something on this matter?
Maybe I can help. I think we are running out of time. I think, there is a very close relationship between water supply in terms of drinking water and maybe the wastewater management. So right now, maybe Pokhara or Kaski, we have intermittent, some maybe sporadic cases, like some area maybe they have. Maybe it is not that very intense situation is right now. But obviously, I think lack of proper waste or wastewater management, we are having a conflict. They are responsible for deteriorating nearby water quality, which could be a source of water supply or as a input water supply for many economic activities. So I feel, these are likely to happen, but the cases are right now maybe limited. Maybe if Rajiv Pokhrel has some specific example in nearby Pokhara, maybe he can add. So, principally, yes.
Okay, so
In context,
thank you.
In context of this question, I think it is difficult to give the exact answer, because these things need to think about the policymaker. Because in case of wastewater, we don't have the wastewater treatment facility in the Pokhara, because if we have even runoff water, if we treat and throw to the river, we can secure the river water quality and so on. We don't have the wastewater treatment facility here, so we cannot say in the current situation we can give a clean water from the every river and so on. More problem, one thing is for in case of drinking purpose, we have a source in the upstream part where the population is very very few populations are there, and mostly around the source there is not any pollution sources there. So we need to collect the water from the upstream where there is not pollutions, and we need to control till the consumer. That is the only way to give clean water to the public and so on. In case of river and others, the government need to develop the policies and need to develop the infrastructure to treat the water before throwing to the river. Until that, we need to wait for that.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have not. One more question is that very valid question, are we considering, or should we consider this water right or water value parameter when we by the different sectors when we talk of this sustainable development? So do you find consideration of this water right subject when we talk for this sustainable development? Would anyone from you would like to add on this?
Yes, good morning to everyone. Sorry, good afternoon. Thanks for providing me this opportunity. And I would love to explain something on the right to water, as I have been engaged and working with international and national organizations for the last 2 decades, advocating on human rights and basically right to development. And we look all the development on the base of human right based approach, and that is also recognized in all the international legal system, international laws, as a universal declaration of human rights recognizes right to water as a basic human rights, and the linked it with the development. So I think that we have in Nepal, in context of Nepal, we have many laws relating to waters. As I have seen from the previous presenter, they explained about the laws, regulations, policies. In one hand, and we have international convention, covenants, declarations, protocols. They all talk about the adequate standard of living of the people, and try to link this right-based approach to the development. So in one hand, this water, I'm not going to the technical part, but as a part of the human right-based approach. So when we linked with the development, for example, the water polluted by the industry, for example, one of the my district, they have the sugar industries and they pollute the water to irrigable land, and it hampers the agriculture land, and it hampers the development of farmers. So ultimately, they don't know, and the implication of impact of those laws is not reached to the grassroots level, and that cannot be advocated by those affected people. So my point is, even the constitution of the Nepal 2015, they have right to water as a fundamental rights, and we have directive principles which envision to prepare laws, policies, but its implementation and impact part is poor, and it has not so far reached to the ground level. So we need to make an advocacy on right to water, and to see how the progress is being made by the government. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I think we have just one comment that maybe during the presentations from the UN side, especially on the land use, they found that some change or say decrease in the this forest area. So maybe you wanted to check whether increase or decrease in the forest area. So that was kind of just a quick comment. So I think that's all for this question and answer part. And I'm going to hand over again to the UNU side, and they'll proceed further. I think now we have a plan, yeah. So I think we have a list of panelists, maybe Amy, Dr. Ms. Amy. I think UNU side is going to call them, right?
I think Mishra, Professor Mishra, I think probably you have to be.
Okay, sorry for the miscommunication. So thank you very much. After this question and session, in the beginning, I would like to call Ms. Ambika Amatya for sharing his view around this water and environment. So would you provide your feedback or comment on this?
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Mishra, for this opportunity. Thank you, Rajiv, sir, for this opportunity to let me participate in this wonderful webinar. it has been really, really wonderful to listen to all the research studies and its outcomes on the water conservation and the SDG issues in that mainly were conducted in Kaski region. The findings from the case studies, the findings from the research and the studies were very insightful, even for my future engagement also. Actually, all of the presentation were really good. The studies, the findings were. The findings can be utilized to the larger context of projects and programs interventions in the other part of Nepal also. I have narrated some of the challenges that I found through all these presentations. The main of some of the presentations, some of the challenges that I found throughout has been centered around the components of the environment, that is water, solid waste management, and the ecosystem and in the ecosystem conservation parts. So Pokhara I think Pokhara is a metropolitan city. I'm confused. Let's say it's one of the big metropolitan city. It's the established one. It has been merged with the Leknath municipality also. So as the project is focused, is the project and the case studies has been focused on that Kaski region. So it is more apparent to learn that there are many opportunities that Pokhara region can explore on to meet the ongoing challenges of the water conservation, of ecosystem conservation in the future areas. Some of the points I have identified that there has been the lack of the proper implementation of the polluters pay principle. That can be regarded as one of the big challenge in the solid waste management. It can also be regarded as challenge in the water conservation. And there is a lack of the proper water treatment facilities. There is the lack of the proper projects and the interventions on the water treatment from the metropolitan side. So there is also the lack of capacity in forwarding the certain kind of the water projects or the solid waste management projects or any kind of the intervention related projects at the ward level, because any disaster can happen anytime, and if anything is happened, then ward is responsible to take forward to handle. So local bodies need to be aware, need to be capacitated for that reason. And everywhere in Nepal we found that local bodies are not in that great capacity to handle the challenges. So there are other challenges that I have identified. There is lack of the big time data also that I have identified and observed from the research studies. We are in the modern world, and there are many kind of the technology based on the cloud system. So despite of that, there has been the big time data challenges, and there is also lack of the proper plan and procedures at the local bodies. So these are some of the challenges that I have identified. And regarding the research findings from the dignified focal points, I have some of the suggestions which could be relevant to the Pokhara University itself and to the research focal points to take forward the future studies as well as the future programs. Some of the programs could be some of the opportunities and the future programs could be there is a need of the proper sectoral engagement, that should focus on the sound coordination and the cooperation sound cooperation and the coordination, and that should be the central of the any relevant environment component related projects. And the second opportunities that I would like to suggest is the capacity development, capacity building of the local bodies, and mainly of the ward focused capacities should be central to the any future initiatives, and should be the any central to the any future initiatives of any future initiatives. And third, I would like to suggest that there is a need of the integrated environment related projects to be suggested at the ward level, at the municipality level, and that could be any like fecal sludge management, integrated solid waste management project. It could be any green development management project. It could be any urban regeneration projects. It could be any watershed conservation related project. It could be any like biodiversity, forest management, urban wash, rainwater harvesting, catchment area conservation project. It could be any, but it should be done. Those projects and plans should be done and initiated by the participation of the community. That is, we talk mainly about the community based projects, but nowadays the term has been developed, that is the community led projects. Now the community should be kept in the forefront of any projects, and they should be given priority in handling the project. That the community-led projects has been the major success in disaster management in countries like Myanmar, in countries like Philippines, Indonesia. There has been case studies of such projects. If we Google in the website, we can find. And there are some suggestions for overall solid waste management of Pokhara metropolitan city. Polluters pay models should be mobilized, should be re-institutionalized at the metropolitan city level, and this also should be incorporated with the formulation of the annual targets. Metropolitan city itself should formulate the annual targets where they have to reach on case of solid waste management. There is a need of the urban regeneration programs and the projects. There is also a need of the cost recovery targets, that is increasing the tariffs of the local bodies on whatever kind of the pollution. And there is also need of the service improvement plan. These are some of the suggestions that I would like to give to this wonderful committees that have organized this webinar. And and with this much, I would like to say that the battery is getting low, and I'm signing off from this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I can see also there are a few more questions on this platform, but maybe because of time constraint, we are not going to take. But if someone wish to respond, maybe you can use that platform. Okay, so let's go ahead. Then I would like to call Mr. Pradeep Jha. He has already talked a little around that. And so maybe, and also we have a very limited time, so I would like him to add up maybe quickly. Please unmute. Please unmute your mic.
Thank you very much once again. As I said earlier, that to make some of the advocacy on this right to water we have to think about how we could reach to the local level, as Nepal has newly established 3 tiers of a federal structure of the government. So my point is, as a human rights advocates, I would love to see that if the water resources experts can take it into account the views that how we reach to the grassroots level on advocacy issue of right to do water. So ultimately, we are looking for all the development as a people centered, and the development is also meant for them. So how they could be interlinked with the right to water and the development. My concern is we work here in Nepal mostly on civil and political rights, but we are unable to reach to the economic, social, cultural rights, which includes the right to water, health, education. So we are very far behind to reach to the people and to make them aware about what is the their rights on water. They don't completely, they are unaware, they are not familiar with those things. So my request, and it would be good to have these perspectives on while making any plan, and technically, if you are going to design anything, so advocacy part, I think it should be included in that to reach to the ground level.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Thank you very much. Now we have, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. And now we are going to request Dr. R.C. Lamichhane. He is working for Pokhara Metropolitan. And I request his opinion or viewpoint on this infrastructure development around this Pokhara region. So would you go ahead, Dr. Lamichhane? I think I can't see him. Maybe we first we go to with other one. So next one, I would like to call Dr. Binay Raj Sivakoti for his experience on this water and environment in the Asian context.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Binay Raj Sivakoti. I am a senior policy researcher at Institute for Global Environmental Strategies based in Japan. So firstly, I would like to thank the organizer, especially UNUIS and Pokhara University, for providing me this opportunity. So today, I'm sorry I could not follow all the presentation because I was in another meeting. But I could, during the very rich discussion you had at the end, I could grasp the overall discussion. So let me share, rather than talking about around what you have talked, let me just come back to it, some of our regional experience that we have on this water environment related issue. So firstly, I would like to introduce that in IGS, we have this program called Water Environment Partnership in Asia. It's a partnership among 13 countries in Asia. So it's including Nepal is one of the member country, and our focal point, Mr. Madhav Dej Acharya from Water Environment and Commission Secretary, he's also here. So he's our focal point in that program. And in that respect, I think what we are doing in the WEPA is it's a platform. Basically, we have a very rich database of water environment database in Asian countries, 13 Asian countries. I can share with you later in the chat about the link. And what WEPA does is, one is collecting database from the partner countries. Second, we will hold an exchange meeting, like an annual meeting, bilateral dialogue, and also internationally participation in the international events. So that is a way of we will engage among the partner countries. In addition to that, we have initiated action programs, which means to address some of the water quality related needs in the member countries. For example, like Indonesia, we are doing TDML approach. In Sri Lanka, we have done industrial groundwater pollution. In Vietnam and other countries like wastewater, industrial wastewater and general wastewater management, in particular like promotion of decentralized wastewater treatment. Such kind of initiatives we are doing. And in addition to that, I think we are also talking with the WICS if we can start one action program in Nepal, particularly focusing on how we can support. So WEPA main objective, just to let you, the main objective of the WEPA is to contribute the water quality environment by strengthening water-related governance aspect. So we are not only technical aspect, morely we want to strengthen the water governance in the Asian region through the sharing of the experiences among the member countries. As you know, in Asia, the member countries have similar kind of challenges related to water management. So most of the aspect what has been discussed in this forum is common to all other countries. But one way to deal with that problem is to exchange the progresses and challenges, so that if there are something promising solution that could be rapidly shared among the member countries. So that would be, for example, like one option could be the findings from this project could be something we shared to the WEPA member countries, such as when we organize some kind of annual event or events or something like that. So just to clarify that this Water Environment Partnership Asia is IGS is a secretariat, but it's owned by the Ministry of Environment Japan. So that is one aspect I would like to add. But beyond that point, I think what is necessary if we talk about water environment management, there has been a lot of call about the integrated approach. And if you see the policies, major policy, water environmental policy or water resource policy or climate change policy, in many of the government, they somehow, in a way, one way or other, talk about the integrated water resource management. And one of the investigation we did in the Lower Mekong region, that consists of the Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia, that we found because it may be useful. For example, like the Lower Mekong has a Mekong River Commission, or like in Nepal has a water and water WECS, Water Energy Commission Secretary. We may need to approach this issue like implementing integrated approach to implement all water-related SDG targets. Because that way we can centralize, because there has been a lot of institutional framework, a lot of experience and discussion, but the implementation is somehow lagging behind. So, and there has been also a lot of discussion about how to implement SDG. Given a large number of targets and indicator and cross linkages, it may be very difficult to, implement each and every goal or target separately. For example, this project focus on water quality, so 6.3, I guess. But it may not be just relevant to look into that. And as Dr. Saroz presented about the economic aspect, so there are also linkages with the economic thing in the SDG goal. So everything's are linked, but and what is the more pragmatic way of approaching the SDG and to deal with this environmental challenges is to have a kind of build on the existing integrated management or river basin planning that has been already promoted widely, including like the banks like ADB, or international network of river basin organization, NARBO in Asia, if you say like that one. So there are so many things ongoing. So that would be like my second message. And in addition to that, also there has been a lot of talk about the lake management. So we also did one project in Satras project in Cambodia. As you may know, Cambodia has a big lake, Tonle Sap Lake, which is a very quite huge lake, largest in the Southeast Asia. So there also we have tried to see the holistic picture of how this lake management could be considered by taking into account the modeling, hydrological modeling, water quality modeling, socioeconomic analysis, risk analysis, and also this social promotion. So the one of the lessons that we have and thinking about is if it would be better to establish some kind of information sharing platform. It's not just like a sharing the like a raw information, but more cater towards sharing the recent research outcome to the especially connecting to the policymaker. So that is, I think, something I would like to mention, and maybe I think because of the time limitation, I like to stop here. And if there are any further questions, I may be happy to answer if time allows. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sibakoti. Now I can see Dr. R.C. Lamechhane is back. So I would like to request him for his experience on around this Pokhara water infrastructure. He is working for City Planning Commission, and he is working as the vice chairperson for that in Pokhara. So you have 3 to 4 minutes time. Please try to wrap up. Please go ahead, sir.
So namaste and thank you, Dr. Misra and Pokhrel for inviting me in this very important seminar. I'm sorry I missed the presentation because I am suffering from the power cut. So I tried to join it from home. Then when I was started, then the power cut happened and came to office. And again, I already faced. I don't know I can complete within this 3-4 minutes or not. I will try. So thank you very much. It's a very important seminar. Pokhara is one of the heavy rainfall cities of the country, and it's the biggest metropolitan city. It has like 664 square kilometer area with the 600,000 people. The 2% area of the city is completely covered by the water mass, so it's one of the largest in the country. So we have 10 lakes, 3-4 rivers, and other seasonal rivers. So around 80% population has got a water tap in their houses, but the water is not so qualitative. That is not suitable for the direct drink. However, that is available in the home, and the quality of the water is very poor in the city. There are lots of sewage mixed in the lake system and the Seti River. So lake and rivers are going to be polluted because of the unplanned developmental thing and the very much benefit-oriented things. So metropolitan city now is going to prepare the 3 years development plan, and we are in the process to localize all the SDG goals. So we are in the process to localize the SDG goal and the goal number 6. We are in the process to localize. So here we will develop the indicators so that we can develop the plan on the basis of the indicator, and that can supply the fresh water to the city developers. So, and others lake, our 8 lakes are enlisted in the Ramsar side. So there should be the fresh water in the lake side. However, the encroachment and the pollution of the water is going on. The concrete study has not been done at all, but however, there are some private study. It's going on like individual study from the universities and other scholars. So we are lacking of the data. I heard some of the presentation, and that was very much concerned with the data. And in Pokhara, we are very much lacking with the data. So City Planning Commission is trying to collect the data, and hopefully we can do it. But we are in the initial process. So we are also trying to make the master plan for the drinking water and water management system, and hopefully I will ask support from all stakeholders who are working in the Pokhara area, including Pokhara University Institute of Forestry and Engineering. So that is our priority area, and then we have target to supply, provide the 100% drinking water tap in the houses, and then drinking water facility in all the public places. So for the solid waste management, we have the campaign to segregate the waste from the sources, so that we can reduce the wastage in the landfill site. One study of the World Bank has done, the study shows that around 82% so wastage produced in the home and hotels can be consumed or recycled. So only 18% so wastage need to taken in the landfill site. So that is the primary situation of Pokhara city, and so we are very much concerned about the fresh water, and then we are going to partnership with some universities about to maintain the water quality of the lake and the other stakeholders. So thank you, Dr. Rajiv, for inviting me and introducing Pokhara Metropolitan City in this important conference, and would like to appreciate all the organizers, and thank you very much. So I love to handle the questions if there arises about the Metropolitan City. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your sharing your experience, and I'd like to also ensure that Pokhara University also will be happy to collaborate with the City Planning Commission in this data collection and other jobs. Thank you. So finally, I would like to request our last participant, Dr. Rajan Bhattrai. He is also Senior Divisional Engineer and working for Water Resources Research and Development Center, which is one of the government organization. So please go ahead, Dr. Rajan Bhattrai.
Thank you, Binay sir, and thank you all for inviting me in this very fruitful and very nice seminars or webinar. I could not attend the first part of the presentations, but I did attend the two presentations, one from the lakes in Indonesia, and others is the economics of lakes in Pokhara Valley. First of all, I would like to add some points, a very few points, because time is running. One is we have repeatedly talking about the data scarcity from the very beginning of 2 to 3 decades when we started to plan for the water in Nepal. But still, after the 3 decades, we are still talking that we have the problem in data for water, environment, and other research-related data. So that is quite that makes me quite unhappy, because if we do not have a reliable data, then the research based on those data are I don't know how useful the research or other activities that we are doing based on the unreliable data. So I'm very happy to learn from Lamchhane sir that the city planning in Pokhara is started to collecting the data, and also my organizations, Water Resources Research and Development Center, which is very new in government research center. We are also started to collect the data from all over Nepal. So I think if we can have a data system, then the research based on those data will be a very fruitful for policy makers. And this is my first point. So the reliable data collection should be our first priority, and its management also. And the second point is if we link our research with the policy, if we want to link our research into the policy, so my request to the projects like this project to to involvement of all the stakeholders from the very beginning of the projects till the end, so that we can collaborate each other and we can share our knowledge and experience to make the output of the project more useful and fruitful. And the other point is we do have in Nepal, we do have many policies. We are also learned from the presentation also. We do have a policy from the National Water Plan, Water Resource Strategy, and recently, just yesterday, the National Water Resources Policy has been published. So but if we give or if we recommend the gaps in the policy through the research, then that will be good or fruitful for policymakers. See, if we really show the bottlenecks in the policies or the plans or our act or our regulations or rules, then that will be more fruitful for the policymakers to what can we do. And the other thing is the collaboration between the universities, government agencies, and other NGOs, INGOs, and all the research organization could be a very useful or very demanding task to give a real output for the country, I think. Thank you, Vinay sir. That's all for me at this moment.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan Bhattarai. I know that there might be, there are several attendees who wanted to share their views on this, but because of time constraint, I think we stop this question and answer and discussion session. And I would like to request Ms. Amy to conduct this webinar further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Mishra, for the facilitation, and to the panelists for sharing diverse perspectives, insights, and suggestions. And we apologize to the audience that we ran out of more time for more open discussion sessions. So our apologies, but thanks to those who had provided their questions and opinions. Now, our webinar is coming to a close, and I would like to invite Mr. Madhav Dev Acharya, Senior Divisional Engineering Geologist of the Water and Energy Commission of Commission Secretariat in Nepal, to deliver the closing remark. Over to you.
Thank you. Hearing everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, my name is Madhav Dev Acharya. I am working as a Senior Divisional Engineering Geologist in Water and Energy Commission Secretariat. First of all, I would like to thank UNU Institute for the Advanced Study for Sustainability to this participate to this webinar in this very prominent, very interesting, and very useful topic, especially for the like a country Nepal, which is supposed to be a very rich in water resources, and so we can make it is as a economic value. The topic is very fruitful, and altogether there are as my duty to wrap up and closing the webinar. I must congratulate and thanks all the participants and the researchers and who took part in this webinar and give very special remarks and very special comments on the research topics presented here in this webinar. And there are most of the topics are very fruitful and seems to be very diverse in covering all parts of the subject, starting from lake, rivers, especially in Nepal, the Kaski district is focused very much, and Kofla also expressed in our SDG development progress, very gradual progress in SDG, achievement in the SDG goals, and our water resources strategy. Also highlighted the recent policy, which was just yesterday made publicized, and very new thing, few new things are addressed in that policy, which has been already discussed by Koflaji and some other participants also, about the water allocation, water budget accounting, and such things are very new in Nepal. This policy is going to be implemented. At the same time, Water Energy Commission Secretariat is preparing a river basin master plans throughout the country. Around maybe coming year it will be finished. It will come in the final version. This will cover a whole part of the country, and this is also in line with this policy. And at the same time, there is also act is also drafted based on that this policy. Most of the issues raised by this water rights and water environment, pollution, polluters pay, all things are, I think, will be addressed in those coming acts. Also, some issues are also highlighted in this policy. I have a Nepali version of this policy, just like this. Look at this one. This is in Nepali version. This is kept in already loaded in the website of Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation. You can find in that Nepali version, but English translation is still in, maybe later it will come. And thank you all the participants, all the researchers who has made very interesting, especially Geeta Mohanji and Saroj Tapangai, which has developed very good model, input-output model, very interesting. They had tried to apply to in Kaski district, but it will be better if we can apply throughout the country, all in basins as a basin-wise system. It will be very good. And Binay Shiva Kodiji from WEPA, he is also very mentioned our WEPA activities in this region, Asia region. And Dr. Mishra also highlighted and mentioned, conducted this webinar very interestingly, very enthusiastically. And Mr. Sudharma from Indonesia, he also explained very detailed in lakes, about the lakes in Bali, in Indonesia. Very good. And all the panelists, Dr. Rajan, he is not in this now. All are very thankful to this successful completion of this webinar. I think the findings of this webinar will be very useful and fruitful in Asian countries. We and professionals who are involved in this water resources and economic development activities, I think it will be a very good, fruitful, and very useful webinar. Thank you very much. I think my Amy, should I close or just hand over to you?
Yes, I will take over. Thank you so much for the comprehensive comments, touching up on all the presentation. Thank you so much to the panelists and audience. Now the webinar on water and sustainable economic development is closed. When you leave the webinar, there will be a short questionnaire on this event. So we would appreciate if you could take just a minute to answer 3 easy questions. So thank you so much for your presence and contribution. You will have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.